Leahy and Ferrario are broadcasting live from the E&B Granite Studios at the Centene Community Ice Center, presented by Bud Light and Skimmer's Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN.
Seconds to go. That'll do it. Bring out the Zamboni, and thank you for another great year, Blues fans. The Blues beat the Mammoth 5-3. Their season will end with a 4-game win streak. They will finish 4 games over 500 at 37, 33, and 12. In fitting fashion, after a tense trade deadline, Robert Thomas finishes the season with his second career hat trick. 25 goals, Hofer a career-high 24 wins, and the Blues head into their offseason. Change is coming, but end for their fans on a high note.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN.
Did you not hear your voice when you talked, or was that in your own head?
I can't hear anything in my headphones right now. I do apologize. Honesty in media, Alex is really mad today.
I'm really not.
Mad.
What's funny about it is I'm not.
Yeah, let's go to this. I don't think Alex is mad yet.
Oh yeah,
I think after our show meeting, BK's going to make Alex mad.
I was happy last night. I was happy this morning. I think this individual right here is going to do everything in his power to piss me off today.
Should we read Alex's Twitter timeline from the morning? Because boy,
there is not one thing that is angry on that though.
Going back multiple hours now. First of all, it began last night. By the way, audio courtesy of the Blues Radio Network. Blues won last night. They finished the season screwing up their draft pick, but ultimately being the second best team in the NHL after the Olympic break. They did it again. Alex, last night after the game.
They didn't do it again last night, or last season. They made the playoffs.
That's a good point.
This one, actually, they did screw it up.
After the game, Alex is going nuts on Twitter about how it doesn't matter that the Blues screwed up the pick because you can get superstars anywhere, and people were mad at Alex. And then this morning, I gotta imagine, this is my guess, Alex, you got on your Twitter account, you saw some of the mentions, and you immediately began fuming. And you just had to respond to these folks and let them know how wrong they were. Yeah. And I felt it to my core. And I was just over here like the meme. Just say, yeah, more. It gave me life this morning to see Alex just nailing these folks. Just haymaker after haymaker.
You know what's funny?
And it doesn't matter that the Blues screwed up their pick.
Because he doesn't do it very often. You're the one who gets under people's skin on Twitter.
Well, what's funny about it is, and ironic, is you're the one that, like, when Cardinals stuff comes out, it's just immediately coming out.
Oh, yeah.
What's funny about it is I started post-game last night with tone. Like, if you go back and listen to it, I started it like BK. And there were people that just immediately pounced it because the first tweet that I put out there was just basically saying, like, hey, they're getting the 11th overall pick in the draft. I didn't put anything other with it. I just said the Blues are officially getting the 11th overall pick. And I think people know, just like how BK knows, to get under my skin, all they do is they start saying that, oh, yeah, you're paid by the Blues, you carry the Blues water. It's like the fishing rod with the worm on it, because I bite it immediately, and then it just reels me the bleep in, and it's like, here we go. So I wasn't mad. Like, at no point last night.
Don't tell me I'm mad. I'm definitely not mad.
Seriously, though, at no point last night was I angry. No point this morning was I angry.
Clearly,
I just, at some point, I was just looking at it that it's like.
The first step in anger management is admitting you have an anger problem.
But again, like, none of my tweets made
I don't have tone. Don't tell me I have tone.
None of my tweets made me out to be angry in this one, which I know people are loving hearing us argue about this right now. I legitimately just looked at it as, yeah, you bleeped up your pick, but in my opinion, you were going to get 8th overall. And from 8th to 11th, it's not that big of a deal to me as much as people are making it out to be. So many people were responding to me saying, you screwed up getting a superstar, Ferrario. There are 2 superstars in this draft.
Maybe.
We don't even, these guys aren't even to the same quality as some of these superstars. And for a moment last night, I was pissed that Nashville couldn't get a freaking point, because then you'd be top 10. But the more I thought about it and the more I started texting with different scouts and prospect people, and it's like, we're arguing over being a top 10 versus an 11 pick. You still have a shot at the lottery, and if people are upset over a 3% chance of getting that number 1 overall pick, then man, more power to you. I understand. By no means do I think they screwed up their franchise. Where they screwed their franchise up, was them not finishing as a second worst team in the National Hockey League.
I think that's, to me, really the conversation. It's not about any one game. It's not about, the last 3 games or last 4 games winning these. It's about, hey, man, you got to the Olympic break and you were, I believe, the second worst team in the NHL. Mm-hmm. And then after the Olympic break, you were the second best team in the NHL. And so it's really about this stretch of games where they waited too long to do anything of substance. Yeah. They finally got to that break. They did the same thing that they did a year ago, not quite to the same degree, and they screwed up the pick. And they dropped from 2 to 11. And so that, to me, is really the conversation here. And I get that. Really, I do.
I understand that, too. That's where I was. It got lost in translation with, I guess, my tone. But
you weren't angry, though.
I understand why people are frustrated that you didn't get the second overall pick and you weren't the 2 worst teams in the National Hockey League. But I think my frustration was, like, guys, we're arguing over if they were the 8th pick, the 9th pick, the 10th pick, or the 11th pick, which the wild part about all of this is, does anybody think the Florida Panthers would care that much about the 8th overall pick? If you went to Florida this offseason and said, we'll give you the 11th and the 15th overall pick.
To be fair, I think they've got a better roster to bounce back and get to the
What I'm saying is, if you want the 8th overall pick, then go trade for it.
But it's not the 8th versus the 11th. That's what I'm getting at, is that's not really the conversation that I think most Blues fans are having.
Correct.
I think what they're having is, we could have had a top 3 pick, but because we turned it on finally for the 2nd consecutive year and like the 3rd time in the last 5 years after a break, we went from the 2nd or 3rd overall selection to the 11th overall selection. Most of the superstars, I've seen your tweets, Alex, I agree with you, there are outliers. Most of the superstars that you get in this league are selected in the top 3. Most of them. Not all, but most. And the Blues had a chance to go get one of those guys. And because they finally turned it on with too little, too late, after all of the games were more or less meaningless, they ended up screwing that up. A chance to get one of those superstars. Chance, not a guarantee. And they ended up with the 11th overall pick. So for me, I actually do kind of side with that. I think that there are benefits to playing the way that they did down the stretch. Seeing Jimmy Snuggerud play like this, that matters. Seeing Dylan Holloway play like this, that matters. Seeing Robert Thomas emerge as not only a good player, which we knew, but looking like one of the best players in the league again, and having line mates that can support him on that quest to a potential 100-point season in the future, that also matters to me. And he appears to be a guy that I'm building around, not just a guy that I'm going to offload in the offseason. Like, all of this stuff is a really big deal. And I think you can make a case that's more important than whatever the odds are of selecting a potential superstar in the top 3. I get that case to be made, but for me, the outs to potentially get one of these wingers that you could also add into this conversation with Dylan Holloway, with Jimmy Snuggerud, with Jake Neighbors, with Justin Carbonneau, that to me would have held even more value. So that's where I do find it to be a little frustrating that they pulled this off again, where they have an impressive final stretch of the regular season, but really the biggest takeaway is you went from a top 3 pick to a 11th overall pick with a 3% chance to move up. That to me kind of sucks.
You ready for the tone?
Go for it, man.
You're naive if you thought this team was a bottom 2 team in the National Hockey League. What you saw in the first half of the season was terrible goaltending, the inability to have depth on defense, where guys, like, we were complaining about Logan Mailloux all season long. And like, part of the reason this team was great down the stretch was because Logan Mailloux looks like a top 4 defenseman. And the other factor into this, and this was the other point that I was trying to make last night, which again didn't really get across. The reason they screwed their picks up wasn't because all of a sudden Jordan Kyrou got hot down the stretch, wasn't because of Pavel Buchnevich. They emerged what could be one of the best lines in the National Hockey League. And I totally understand if people are skeptical, because the response I got was they did that last year.
Yeah, I saw it. It was Schenn and Holloway and Kyrou.
And if you thought that Schenn and Kyrou were going to continue that, which I did there for a while, I'll admit the hypocrisy here. I'm not afraid to do it. That is completely different than what Thomas, Snuggerud, and Holloway showed you.
Tell me why.
Money Puck put this out yesterday, and I have to pull the stat back up because I compared it after what that line did. But if I'm not mistaken, that line of Holloway, Thomas, and Snuggerud this season finished the season minimum of 200 minutes played together, 250 minutes played together at 5-on-5 at a 5.67 goals for per 60 minutes, which was best in the National Hockey League, and a 1.42 goals against per 60 minutes. Our last season, Holloway, Schenn, and Kyrou played nearly 500 minutes together. Their goals for per 60 minutes was 2.62, nearly 3 goals fewer per game, and 1.92, close to 2 goals allowed per game.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Wow.
That line, what you saw with Thomas, Holloway, and Snuggerud, that is something to believe in, because Snuggerud has not even been an NHL player full-time. You had seen 7+ years of Jordan Kyrou as a full-time NHL player, and you saw it for a hot stretch with Dylan Holloway. But if you do want to bank on, well, look at how great that line was. Yeah, it was because Dylan Holloway was awesome. And now you're putting him with what you believe to be a number one center in the National Hockey League, and Jimmy Snuggerud, who realistically could put up 30+ goals in the National Hockey League. But they're not the only ones that screwed up your draft pick. Joel Hofer became one of the best goaltenders in the National Hockey League from November 1st to the end of the season. If he would have got a shutout last night, he would have had the tied for the most shutouts in the National Hockey League. You know the last Blue to be at the top of the leaderboard of shutouts at the end of the National Hockey League was?
Was it Bennington?
No, it was Roman Turek back in the 1999 season. And also Philip Broberg emerged. We kind of thought it last year, but he took on that load of being the number one defenseman. So my whole point around all of this is, yeah, it sucks to not have a top 2 pick. But you don't have a top 2 pick because you had a number 1 line that emerged as like a legit number 1 line that you can believe in next year. Your defense developed with Logan Mailloux and Philip Broberg, and your goaltending, you just saw shades of what a number 1 goalie looks like.
I actually think the 636 makes a really good argument.
That's cool. I didn't just make an argument for 5 minutes.
You also made a good one, but the 636 made one that even convinced me more that this was actually a great thing that happened down the stretch. From the 636, you could argue that they saved Thomas down the stretch. To me, that's worth more than the number 2 overall selection. If we get the number 2 overall pick, Thomas is probably gone. It's a great point. You might have a potential superstar in Robert Thomas. Like, let me ask you this. What do you think is more likely to happen here on a Friday? Is it more likely that Robert Thomas is a superstar, or one of Stenberg or Gavin McKenna is a superstar?
Robert Thomas is a superstar. I'd even add more into that. What's more likely? Holloway or Snuggerud become a superstar, or Gavin McKenna becomes a superstar?
I would decide probably on the McKenna.
I would go Holloway or Snuggerud.
Now, you can convince me on the Thomas one, based on, because this is the second year in a row where he's gone on a 20-game heater, or 20-plus.
I mean, it's the second season in a row that Holloway's gone on a 20-game heater.
That's true.
That line, by the way, did not. I know I'm fired up today, but it's not in a bad way. I'm not angry.
I think this is great.
That line from March 1st on this season, that line did not have a game where not one of those players earned a point. They had a point in every single game. They carried you down that stretch, even when you were losing to San Jose and LA, which we know why they lost, guys. Their depth of scoring is bad. It's donkey. And I don't know if I can say the word, so I'm just going to say donkey here. That line was awesome for you. So I could argue, as much as you're going to say this is the second season that Robert Thomas went on a 20-game heater, so is Dylan Holloway. And he did it with 2 different players that have a higher upside than what Kyrou and Schenn have.
That's a pretty convincing argument to me, T-Bone. I'm being totally serious. Dylan Holloway is a guy that we've talked about in the past as having that kind of a ceiling. Mm-hmm. Now, I can't sit here and pretend as though I know enough about Gavin McKenna or Ivar Stenberg to know what their realistic ceiling is going to be. I have no idea. I haven't watched a whole lot of those guys. I have seen a ton of Robert Thomas and Dylan Holloway to say what I think of them as players. And to me, I think the most likely superstar out of that group of players that I was just discussing is Robert Thomas. Mm-hmm. I think he's the guy that has the most likely path to that place, because I think next year, if you have Robert Thomas with Dylan Holloway and with Jimmy Snuggerud, and he's healthy for the full season, which is a huge question mark for him right now, he has a realistic outcome of getting to 90-plus points and getting to 30 goals next year. I can't believe we're saying that, but he scored 25 this year in 65 games. He's got a real chance to get to 30 goals and 90-plus points. If I see that as a realistic outcome for him, that's a superstar. And he's also got a plus pedigree defensively. Mm-hmm. He's 26 years old. Like, that's a guy I am building my franchise around. And so for me, that argument from the 636, I think it holds a ton of weight. Yeah. That the most important factor, just like for the Cardinals, the single most important thing for them this year is figuring out what they have with Jordan Walker. And if he figures it out and can become that player that we've been talking about, that's more important than anything else. More important, yes, than J.J. Weatherholt or than what you get for Dustin May or what you get at the deadline for Lars Nootbaar. More important than any of those things is Jordan Walker becoming what we have seen so far. The Jordan Walker of the Blues is Robert Thomas. Yeah. And the possibility that he can be something special for you. And probably the only way that he was going to be here long term is if he went on a tear like this down the stretch.
And
so, I've swayed. 636 got me.
Come on, man. You're not gonna give me some credit here.
Nope.
You're not going to. The other thing, too, is where your weaknesses is if you're the Blues. Like tomorrow when they have.
The top line.
Honestly, yes. When they have their locker clean out tomorrow, I fully anticipate Doug Armstrong discussing how their depth of scoring needs to improve. And this was my point last night when people were upset that they didn't get the 8th overall pick. And again, we've made it clear that the real disappointment is not getting a top 2 spot. But in my opinion, you were never going to get that. If you're upset about getting an 8th overall pick or if you're upset that you didn't get the 8th overall pick and you're falling at the 11th pick, guys, from 8 to 11, none of those players were playing on your team next season. All of those players were going into your minor league system, going back to juniors, and you're still waiting 2 years from now. Sure, an 8th overall pick looks a little bit sexier if you're going to try and trade it at this draft to either move up or go get another piece. You've got so much weaponry if you're the Blues to go make some type of deal if you want to improve your team. It's not adding another top 7, top 8 pick to your pipeline. You need to address your secondary scoring, and that needs help right away. And I still think they'll have the weaponry, whether they had an 8th overall pick or an 11th overall pick to do so.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. You could check us out on YouTube, as always, at youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. We have Bradford Bruns back in the studio for us today as we are one more time here from the E&B Granite Studios out at the Centene Community Ice Center. Want to hear from you coming up at 11:45 with Ask Us Anything. We will talk with the whiskey guy, Mike McKenna, joining us coming up at 12 o'clock. We also have Cardinals analyst Brad Thompson, World Series champion, joining us at 12:30 as well. But coming up next, do want to talk a little bit about the Blues offseason. Earlier today, Jeremy Rutherford wrote about their top 10 priorities for the offseason. What is number 1 on that list? Alex will give you his thoughts. We'll give you ours next here on 101 ESPN.
The Spread Zone, where sports betting meets reckless optimism, questionable logic, and the occasional stroke of genius. With hosts Anthony Stalter, Tim McKernan, and Scott Rizzuto. Check out the latest from the Spread Zone at 101ESPN.com or the 101 mobile app. The Spread Zone is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Broadcasting live from the Centene Community Ice Center inside the ENB Granite Studios. This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Presented by Bud Light and Skimmers Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN.
He's Alex, that's Steve on, and I'm BK. Blues season came to its conclusion last night. They will have their exit interviews tomorrow. You'll be able to hear full coverage on social media tomorrow. Alex will be down there making sure that he gets all of that for you. So he'll post a bunch of videos. He'll post a recap as well tomorrow for you. It'll all be on social media. You can find it on his page at Ferrario 101 ESPN and on the 101 ESPN social accounts at 101 ESPN. So earlier today, Alex, Jeremy Rutherford had his piece up on what the Blues offseason priorities should be. The number one priority on his list was signing Dylan Holloway to an extension. Holloway came back into the lineup after the Olympic break, and in his 25 games, he had 14 goals and 34 points. Last year, he did something similar where he went on an absolute tear in the final stretch of the season. He's wildly talented. He's fast. He's physical. He has a really good shot. He plays well defensively. I have almost no questions about Dylan Holloway when he's on the ice. That's the one caveat, though, is when he's on the ice. He has had an injury history that's going to follow him now, and that's going to be part, I would assume, of the conversation going into the offseason of what an extension looks like. So the number one priority for Jeremy Rutherford, sign that extension right away with Dylan Holloway. For you, Alex, what is your number one priority for the offseason? Is it Holloway or is it something different?
It's not Holloway. And just for a little more context on that, last year in 21 games to wrap up the season, you had 10 goals, 23 points. It was a plus 13. This season, 25 games, 14 goals, 34 points, plus 26.
So he was even better this year than he was last year.
And that's because, in my opinion, he was playing with Thomas and Snuggerud, who have that higher ceiling to it. No, it's not Dylan Holloway, because in my opinion, Dylan Holloway is going to be on this team no matter what. You can worry about the offer sheet thing all you want. He's going to be a Blue for, at minimum, the next 3 seasons, and then after that, he's a UFA. That would be 2 on my list. Number 1 is trading Jordan Kyrou. That, in my opinion, has to be the number 1 priority for the Blues this offseason. And I know that seems very harsh because it's Jordan Kyrou, but you've done this rodeo now for a few seasons to where he's hot, then he's cold, and then he turns it on. This season, he did not turn it on.
Can I play devil's advocate on it?
Sure.
On what, keeping Kyrou?
Yes. Because I agree with you.
Always come back to the table.
You hear that tone?
Yeah. That's because T-Bone and I are on the same page.
First of all, I agree with you. I do think they should trade Jordan Kyrou this offseason. But I do want to play devil's advocate for a minute because I do think it is a move that could come back to haunt you. The reason being, this year, he was pretty unlucky if you believe in some of the underlying numbers. I believe he is a 30-goal scorer. I think if you trade Jordan Kyrou and he goes to a team where he's playing with a quality center, he will score 30 goals next year and probably be somewhere around a point per game player. Now, you may view that and say, I don't care because he's so bad defensively and he floats out of the game so often. I don't trust him and I don't think you're going to win anything of meaning with him on your roster. That's a fair belief. I'm just giving you the alternative. One of the things that I do believe held Jordan Kyrou back this season is a lack of a number 2 center on this roster. And so I would argue, my question to you, I guess, would be, is it better to trade Kyrou, who's in that mid-20s range, has the 30-goal, 80-point potential, and we've seen it. It's not just potential, it's also proven production while in a Blues uniform. Or is it better to identify that number 2 center that can come in and, much like Thomas was able to get the most out of Holloway and Snuggerud, who were not as productive when they weren't with Thomas, you could get more out of Kyrou, and maybe it's Jake Neighbors next year. Maybe it ends up being Justin Carbonneau, whoever the other winger is that's along with Kyrou. You add in that second-line center, and you're able to maximize the potential again with Jordan Kyrou. Which one of those do you think is the better route to go for the Blues this offseason? Adding a center or removing Jordan Kyrou?
My retort to you would be, how are you getting that center if you're not trading Kyrou?
Fair question.
Because you're not getting them with draft
Parayko?
picks. I don't think you're getting them with Parayko, because if you're trading Parayko, you're getting a younger piece back in return, not an NHL-ready piece.
What if it is the kind of piece that you were targeting in a return for Robert Thomas? Like, remember the deal that the Blues had in place with Buffalo where they were going to get in return a potential defenseman who could immediately slot into the top 4 last year? What if you can just do the same thing, but instead of getting a top 4 defenseman, you get that second-line centerman in return for Colton Parayko?
It's possible. I just don't think Parayko gets you that. I think it's Parayko plus a Jiricek plus a Carbonneau plus your draft picks. And even then, like, I think to get the center that you're talking about, it's going to have to be Kyrou plus to get him.
That's fair.
So that's my only retort to it, because this isn't a free agency class that you can go out and get one. This isn't a draft that you can trade up to draft a centerman and he slots right in. You're looking at a couple of years down the road. I still think with everything that you said, and you're right, it may come back and I don't even know if I want to use the word bite you as a Blues fan, but you may look back on it and be like, should have never let him go. I fall into the camp of whatever he does elsewhere, he wasn't going to do in St. Louis. I think he's just one of those guys that needs a fresh start. I label it the same as Jake Wallman. I label it the same as Vince Dunn. I even look at what Tage Thompson has done.
I think that's quite different, though, because Kyrou did it in a Blues uniform.
Sure.
Those guys never did.
That's fine. But under the system that Jim Montgomery wants to play, I don't think that benefits a Jordan Kyrou.
But Kyrou did play last year.
Kyrou played last year with Dylan Holloway. And I think Dylan Holloway accelerated his game. Dylan Holloway's not playing with Kyrou.
No, but what if you get a center that can be for Kyrou what Holloway was?
But I don't know who that is. Like, to them, Dalibor Dvorsky's their second-line center next year. And you saw what that looked like, and they're probably going to look at it as, we'll find a third-line center.
Can Dalibor Dvorsky get the most out of Carbonneau? Can Dalibor Dvorsky get the most out of Jake Neighbors? Can Dalibor Dvorsky get the most out of Otto Stimpler?
Carbonneau, well, Jake Neighbors plays to the style that Jim Montgomery wants to play. You're right, though. They need a centerman that can do that. Carbonneau, in my opinion, I think Carbonneau can match point-wise what Jordan Kyrou has matched at his peak. He plays the style, though, that I think Jim Montgomery wants players to play. I go back to the quote that Jim Montgomery had last week when they asked him what he learned about his team coming out of the Olympic break. And he said, we have a lot of guys that have turned it on when games don't matter. We need guys to turn it on when games are important in October and November. And my problem with Kyrou, and I do think that he's better defensively than people give him credit for, my problem with Kyrou is one night he will show up and he will be one of the best players on the ice. And then the next 3, you don't notice him. That player cannot be in my top 6. He can't. Even with Pavel Buchnevich, and I know we've got our qualms with Pavel Buchnevich, that dude finished with 20 goals and 50 points. Now, it's not pretty. He needs to be more consistent. I don't think Pavel Buchnevich is a top 6 winger for you. I think that's a third-line winger that you just have to eat it with that salary. I think a Carbonneau, I think a Stenberg, I think a Neighbors. I think if you go target a high-level winger or centerman for that second line, that's where you find that upgrade. I view Jordan Kyrou as a guy that is not going to get back to what those 37 goals were in St. Louis, because I think both sides feel a fresh break is needed.
Maybe. I think that's the most likely scenario here. I think the most likely scenario is Kyrou is elsewhere at the start of next season. I would just say be careful what you wish for, because this is a guy that over the last 4 seasons, from age 23 to age 26, averaged 34 goals per season. That's just a lot to give up. And the acquiring team in a deal like this is almost certainly going to be getting the best player in the deal. It is very unlikely that you get a player better in return for Jordan Kyrou than what Jordan Kyrou has been for you. Now, again, that may be okay with you. You may say, I believe, like Alex said, Carbonneau can just replace what Kyrou did. I think that's asking a lot, especially early on, for Carbonneau to come in. Like, if Carbonneau next year has the same season as what Jordan Kyrou did this year, which was a huge disappointment for Jordan Kyrou, I think that would be considered a success.
And I think he can put up those numbers.
This year's numbers, yes.
Yes.
But that's not good enough. They're not trying to replace this year's Jordan Kyrou. They're trying to replace last year's Jordan Kyrou.
But if they're moving Kyrou, they see if he hits that number next year, then their prediction on Justin Carbonneau is he can get to what Jordan Kyrou has done.
So are the Blues trying to win next year, or are they trying to win in 2028?
I think they're I think it's obvious they're not trying to win next year. They're trying to be competitive for a playoff spot, which is why I don't think they trade Thomas. I don't think they trade Parayko. I don't think they trade Binnington. I think they move around the assets that they've accumulated and also see what they can do with Jordan Kyrou to advance their team. Add in Justin Carbonneau, add in Adam Jiricek. I think you can be what the LA Kings, what the Nashville Predators, what the Winnipeg Jets were. By no means do I believe this team is competing for a Stanley Cup or even competing for a top 3 spot in the Western Conference next year. I think you're still another year or 2 away. because you have to see what the next step is for Snuggerud and Holloway. You have to see what Jiricek and Carbonneau look like. And frankly, I still think you need to address your second line and find some type of high ceiling player. To me, Kyrou is not going to be that for you, and you got to go find that piece.
Illini DK says on the YouTube chat, so basically BK wants to run it back again. No, I don't. I think the most likely scenario is that they trade Jordan Kyrou this offseason. I think that's probably the way that I would go about it as well, because I think it's probably run its course. I think Alex makes a lot of fair points, and I think that's probably both the most likely and the best way to go about it this offseason. What I'm cautioning against is this notion that it's immediately going to be better because you remove Kyrou from the equation. I think it will probably be worse. I think you're likely for next year at least going to be worse without him on the roster. And I think you will be looking at it the way that we did at the beginning of this year with the Mailloux versus Bolduc conversation, where Bolduc was putting up these numbers, Mailloux was struggling early on, and I think it's going to be something similar next year where Kyrou probably outperforms either Carbonneau or the guy that you get in return for Jordan Kyrou, and there may be some buyer's remorse immediately. There also could be a situation, though, where you end up on the opposite side of the Ryan O'Reilly trade, where O'Reilly came here, had all of the success. Buffalo fans were like, what the hell? But then eventually Tage Thompson becomes a player that you want to build around. And now Buffalo fans are pretty happy with the way that things ultimately went for them as well. You could be getting the Tage Thompson in this scenario. That's the hope. It's also a very low percentage chance of that being the case. So I just want to caution against this idea that you immediately improve after trading Jordan Kyrou. I think the most likely scenario is you end up getting worse. And that's kind of the point that I'm trying to get at here.
And then I think the question becomes, well, how many years do you think it is till you get back to that competitive window? Because that's how you end up in the scenario where if that answer is multiple years, say, 3, for example, that's when I think they start to have that conversation again of, well, okay, what are we doing with Parayko and what are we doing with Thomas? And that's where it just becomes a difficult thing to, if you are going to try and improve on that second line and move out Kyrou, look for that 30-goal replacement this season, while then trying to find a spot to slot Carbonneau in, say, over like Berggren on the third line, for example. Okay, I can buy into that, and then I see how you convince yourself if you're hanging on to Thomas and you're hanging on to Parayko this offseason. But if you're starting to map this out and you say, well, we're replacing this year's Kyrou with Carbonneau, and we're hoping for that, then I say, okay, well, how many years do you think you are away from getting back, not to just contending for a cup, because that's one that will take time to build towards, but just contending for a playoff spot annually? And if that answer is beyond 2 years, and it's more in that 3-4 year window, I think that's when they get back to that conversation of, okay, well, should we trade Parayko? Should we trade Thomas?
Yeah, I think they're competitive for a playoff spot next year. With, like, even if you were to take Kyrou out and pluck Carbonneau and Jiricek in, I think you're competitive for a playoff spot next year. I think the next step is until they're willing to go aggressive to find that piece. And it's not that they wouldn't go aggressive this offseason to find that piece. It's just, when is that piece available? I think this year might actually be the year to be aggressive because of how many teams are going to be looking to shake things up, whether it's New Jersey or Seattle or Detroit or Toronto or one of these teams that gets bounced in the playoffs. I think they can be competitive. I think you can bring in pieces to advance this process. I don't think we're talking another 3 years. And in all reality, I think Kyrou might be a piece along with other assets, which could be all 3 of these first-round picks. I think that's the piece you go out there and try and find the centerman for that second line so that you can advance those younger prospect wingers that you have on your team.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get into Ask Us Anything. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. But next, is Kyle Leahy on a clock right now, or is he going to get an extended runway for the Cardinals the way that they've been describing? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley, St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
NBA play-in tournament doubleheader. Game 1, Hornets and Magic. Game 2, Suns and Warriors. Coverage begins at 6. Your home for the NBA is 101 ESPN. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Mammoth performance by 18 in season finale. Good morning, I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is supplied by Universal Windows Direct. The Blues closed out their campaign with a 5-3 victory over Utah on Thursday. Robert Thomas notching his second career hat trick, while Joe Hofer made 20 saves. St. Louis finishing 37-33 and 12 for 86 points. Baseball, Cardinals manager Ali Marmol will send Kyle Leahy to the mound for tonight's tilt against last place Houston. About 2 hours from now, Mets-Cubs action gets underway at Wrigley Field. Tomorrow, 101 ESPN's afternoon slate features Yankees-Royals before our Stanley Cup playoffs opener, Dallas, Minnesota. This Sports Center update was presented by Universal Windows Direct. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Broadcasting live from the ENB Granite Studios at the Centene Community Ice Center. Presented by Bud Light and Skimmers Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN.
Some Blues news from Darren Dreger. Team Canada has secured some key players for the World Championships. It's Scheifele, Tavares, O'Reilly, and Robert Thomas is expected to play for Team Canada this summer. We'll get into the Kyle Leahy conversation here in just a moment. But, Alex, what do you take away from this? Robert Thomas expected to play for Team Canada.
Jordan Kyrou on the mind. Yeah. I understand it. I think it's smart by Robert Thomas to just go and get extra games because you missed some time. I just told you guys during the commercial break, I think that's a leadership thing too. I remember the narrative around Connor Bedard, I think it was 2 off seasons ago, of how he didn't want to go play in the World Championships in the offseason because he wanted to kind of fine-tune his skills in the offseason. And people were like, what's this guy doing? He could be playing with Sidney Crosby and all of this stuff. And there was some backlash on it. And then this past year, it was, I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go perform for them because I want to get that extra rep. And now everyone's like, Connor Bedard's ready to take the crown. I think all of this leadership conversation that we've had about Robert Thomas, and again, I might be reading way too much into this. I just see this as Robert Thomas being like, I want to go get more work, and I'm going to be around these stars in the NHL so I can continue to grow with them. So I kind of view that as a leadership thing by him.
I think for him, it's one of those where we heard about his goal of wanting to make the Olympic roster coming into this season. And he didn't reach that goal. Now, whether that was it was performance, and maybe that performance was affected by his injury. But if you're Robert Thomas, if you want to make a showcase to Canada's upper management, this is your opportunity, right? Some of the best Canadian-born players aren't available for this tournament at the start because they're in the Stanley Cup playoffs. McDavid's not available. McKenna's not available for this. So this is your opportunity. You have an opportunity to go play for your country, which he wants to do, and you get a chance to showcase yourself for whatever the next big tournament run is, whether that's Four Nations.
It's the World Cup of Hockey, which is February 2028.
Thank you. I knew it was either Four Nations or World Cup. I forget what we call it now. But this is his chance to showcase what he's got, that this hot momentum he carried into the end of the regular season with the Blues. Carry it over to Team Canada and showcase your skill set to the Canadian management.
I hate to break it to Blues fans and NHL fans. It's just the All-Star game this upcoming season. There's no Olympics, no Four Nations.
So that's the Blues news from Darren Dreger on Twitter. On the Cardinals side of things, Kyle Leahy on the mound tonight for the Cardinals. It'll be his 4th start of the year. So far, it's been, I would say, uneven for Kyle Leahy as a starter. In his first 3 starts for them, he has 7 strikeouts and 8 walks. Now, the idea was he's going to be on the Matthew Liberatore plan. He's going to go from being a reliever for the Cardinals to extending himself as a starter. We'll see what this looks like. He had been stretched out as a starter in the minor leagues and then converted to a reliever. It looked really good, much like Matthew Liberatore. And then Libby last year, we saw it pay dividends right away. I do think there's a key difference, though, Alex, between the Leahy plan and the Libby plan. I think there are 2 of them in particular. One, options. You have different alternatives this year than you did last year. You have more depth in your rotation than you did last year. Now, some of them are hurt currently, but especially as the season progresses, you're expected to have many more options than you did last year. 2, success. In his first 5 starts last season, the first month of the season, Matthew Liberatore went 31 innings, had 28 strikeouts and 2 walks. He had a 3.1 ERA, and the underlying numbers were even better than that. His fielding independent pitching was a 1.95 last year through his first 5 starts. Meanwhile, with Kyle Leahy, in his first 3 starts so far this year, has a 5 ERA, and as I mentioned, has basically the same number of walks as strikeouts. That's nowhere close to what we saw last year from Libby in the first month of the season. And that first month, in my opinion, bought him some time. It allowed him to, as he got through some of these struggles, work through them. Because he did have a start against the Cincinnati Reds where he went 3 innings and gave up 2 earned runs. And then a couple of starts later, went 5 innings, gave up 4 earned runs, and then 4 innings and 7 earned runs. So he hit a bit of a dry spell in late May, early June, but he had built up some good grace to the point where people looked at it and were like, all right, well, this is a rough stretch. He'll be okay. Leahy has not done that. Dobbins is a couple of weeks away from probably joining this rotation. Are we watching, Alex, a pitcher right now who's on the clock, or will he get that same grace period that we saw a year ago from Matthew Liberatore?
I think he's going to get the grace period because of the injury to Richard Fitz. Because if Richard Fitz was healthy and continued the development throughout Memphis and Hunter Dobbins was joining that rotation, I think there's a real shot Leahy probably would have found his way back into the bullpen, especially if their bullpen continued to implode. You were thinking it's like, all right, well, we need some help at that front. But I think because of that Richard Fitz injury and a stretch of games where you just don't have as many days off coming forward, I think you got to have Kyle Leahy just as somebody who can go out there and eat innings. Now, all of this to be said, if he continues to only give them 4 innings and things look ugly and they got to go to the bullpen by the time they get to the 5th inning, then yeah, I think he's probably on the clock. I think he's got a little bit more runway because they want to see what Hunter Dobbins looks like. Is he going to be ready for the major leagues? If Dobbins comes in and looks like, oh yeah, this guy's ready to pitch in the rotation and be every 5th day for us, yeah, I could see them start to kind of go the Steven Matz route, maybe fizzle them out, and then every once in a while you'd get a start here and there. But I think because of, T-Bone, who was sounding the red alarm yesterday of the pitching crisis that they're in, I think because they have so many few options and due to these injuries right now, I think Leahy stays in it.
Yeah, I think they're going to run this for a while with Kyle Leahy. And I think it's one because they believe in this experiment that they're trying with him, and they think it's going to get better. But I do think the Fitz injury does play an impact on it, to what Alex was saying there, because when you move to the 6-man rotation, that's fine, right? Dobbins is there. You've got 6 guys that are starting. But I think the guy that actually could potentially be on the clock during that competition is more Palante than it is Leahy. And the reason I say that is I don't think they would send Leahy down and say, okay, we need you to keep stretching out. We want you to work on this starters thing, and we need you to be built up because we have only 6 starters that are ready for the big leagues. I think if they're going to do that, they're going to just say, you know what, we need to continue running this with Leahy. Palante got outpitched. Palante can go down, and he can stay stretched out as our 6th starter. I don't think they would move Leahy to the pen when Dobbins gets up here if he pitches well, because I think they want to continue to have him as a starter. And because they lost Fitz, I know, like, you guys disagree on me on the pitching crisis. I don't think they want to get to the spot where they're calling up Zimmerman, for example, who's probably their 7th starter right now. And we know they don't want to rush Matthews or Bryson Motts, who's down there at AAA. I think they would prefer, if they can, to have one of their 6 starters available still stretched out. So I don't think they're sending anybody to the bullpen, because if an injury were to occur, now you're back to trying to build that guy back up if he has to slot back into the rotation.
Yeah, I think he's on the clock. I think this is a competition between Leahy and Palante, and whoever's worse over the next, I think you've got like a solid month plus before they have to make any decisions here. But as barring injury and assuming health for everybody, I think one of those 2 is going to be bumped to the bullpen after we get through the 6-man rotation stretch. And they will move in there either as a long reliever or, in my opinion, more likely, one of the guys that works into the 7th inning, because they're also missing that right now. We've got to look at what they're missing in their bullpen. Right now, I feel really good about what you have in the 9th inning. I feel pretty good about what you have in the 8th inning with JoJo Romero. I don't know about Stanek. I don't know about Soriano, but maybe. And then after that, it's a whole lot of question marks. You could use somebody else that could alleviate some of those questions. And we've seen it from both Palante and from Kyle Leahy. When in the bullpen, their stuff plays up. And right now, I just don't see it with Kyle Leahy. I don't think his stuff has translated to the rotation the way that they were expecting it to. So he would be my pick to move to the bullpen sooner rather than later. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Mike McKenna joining us coming up here in about 15 minutes. The former NHL goalie will get his thoughts on the Blues season, recap things with him, and ask him what his number one priority would be for the Blues this offseason. We'll get into all of that with Mike coming up in 15 minutes. Ask Us Anything coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
You can now listen to 101 ESPN on demand. Get caught up on all our shows and podcasts at 101ESPN.com or on the 101 mobile app. 101 ESPN podcasts are presented by the Schaefer Door Company.
Alex Ferrario back with you to talk about my friends at Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. Dobbs has been St. Louis proud since 1976. They know all about the potholes that are out there, the constant construction, and the debris that you're going to run into on the road that can really do damage to your cars and your tires. So Dobbs, make sure that you keep rolling with the best new tire prices in town guaranteed. They've got locations all over town staffed with expert technicians who can take care of your car for any vehicle that you drive, no matter what you drive. And with the most locations around, including new stores in Oakville, Overland, and Waterloo, full-service tire and auto service has never been more convenient. And something you can't get at just any other auto shop, their fixed forever warranty guarantees the parts and labor on their auto services for as long as you own your car. Plus, Dobbs now is offering complimentary digital vehicle condition reports, photos, videos, explanations from ASE certified technicians, and it's sent right to your phone so that you're informed. So schedule your service online 24/7. Go to Dobbs.com. Again, go to Dobbs.com.
Live from the Centene Community Ice Center inside the ENB Granite Studios. You're tuned into BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Presented by Bud Light and Skimmer's Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN. You've got questions? BK and Ferrario may have the answers. Questions and Answers is presented by 100 West Dental. Does your dentist actually satisfy you? Dr. Pryor and his team will at 100westdental.com.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything. If you guys have any questions, sports or otherwise, go ahead and get them in on the Air Comfort Service text line. From the 314, you guys celebrating anything this weekend? Alex, you guys have anything going on?
Yeah, my mother-in-law's, can't say her actual birthday, but a significant birthday celebration for her. I don't think she'd want me to say.
Sure.
We're having that celebration tonight.
Oh, cool.
For her. So that's about it. And then obviously,
you guys going anywhere?
Yeah, they're throwing her a party. She already knows about it. And I don't even think she's listening, but they're throwing her a party at Helen Fitzgerald. So,
oh, cool.
So we're going to be there, kind of a small get together with that one. But bigger is I get to celebrate being a dad again with my daughters because hockey season's over.
Good for you, man.
I told T-Bone this yesterday. Adelaide, my oldest, when she found out that hockey was done, she's like, Daddy, we're going to do this. We're going to have tea parties. We're going to go ride our bikes. You're going to go out there and play with me on this. So I can't wait for that.
Good. You could probably have an experience like I did yesterday where Luca, we were outside. He was playing baseball, hitting the ball off the tee, and then looked at me and just flung the baseball bat straight at me.
You can have it.
I looked at him. I said, Luca, why'd you do that? He said, I am 2 years old.
Good for you.
You know what? Actually, that's exactly right. Yep. Hard to argue.
I have those pretty much on a daily basis.
Yep. So that's what we are celebrating is we have a 2-year-old.
I am 2 years old.
We don't have anything.
Wait till you get to a 3-year-old.
It's more fun, huh?
That's what I've been told.
T-Bone, you guys celebrating anything?
I got nothing going on outside of working this weekend. So.
Come on over, T-Bone. You can come celebrate with me.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything. From the 636, Alex and BK, T-Bone.
What do I feel like that was not meant for all three of us?
With yesterday's acquisition, if Mizzou Hoops disappoints next season, do you think Gates would be fired? Maybe. I think it's at least in play now.
What's his buyout?
I'd have to look at what the actual number is. It becomes more reasonable, I believe, after next season.
That's a big driving force that people don't talk about. They talk a lot about, like, well, what about record, this and that? Okay, but if he has a significant buyout, a school like Missouri is not going to just, like, do what Ohio State in football would do, right, and eat a ton of money.
For sure.
So that's why I asked that question, but I do agree that the seat is definitely getting warmer.
Yeah, I think it's the first year where I'm willing to have that conversation. Previously, it's been he deserves some grace, give him some time. Now it's, all right, it's year 5, and you've got the talent on your roster. You've done a really good job. Credit to Gates. He deserves the credit. This time around, he actually went into the portal, identified what they needed, and went out and got it. In previous years, I think you could always look at the roster and say, fell short. You screwed up one spot on this roster, especially the big man. That's always been the question for them. They got it right this time around, it appears. So now it's on him to make sure they get the most out of them. From the 703, we doing this question thing still? Here's my question. What jersey will Jordan Kyrou be wearing next year?
I couldn't even begin to guess that for you because it's all on him. He gets to decide where he wants to go.
I'm screwed. I'm taking a shot. I'm going to New Jersey. I think he's a Devil. That would be my guess.
I could see New Jersey. I could see Seattle. I could see the Islanders revisiting it. I could see Detroit being interested. There's a lot of options.
Boy, if I got all those outs, I would say all 31 other teams.
I could see Toronto being interested. And I know people laugh at that because of Craig Berube. And frankly, I don't think the general manager is going to care.
To be fair, I'm not sure if Craig's going to be back next year.
Well, that's fair. But I mean, there's a lot of teams I think that will jump into that.
I wonder what San Jose is going to do.
Blues announcement for you, by the way.
Good.
Both Claus Julie and Mike Weber's contracts will not be renewed.
Interesting. Hey, credit where it's due. Alex has been calling this for months.
Yeah. I'd like to thank Claude and Mike for their contributions during this time. Contract set to expire this summer. We wanted to give them the opportunity to move on to the next chapter of their coaching careers while we work to build a coaching staff that is best suited to lead our team moving forward.
Are you surprised by the Weber one at all, since the defense kind of turned it around in the second half?
No, because I think the defense turned it around because Mayu's growth, which you can accredit to Mike Weber, but you got to give that to Jim Montgomery too. He's working with these guys, but I also think the goaltending was elite. And that's why your defense looked like it improved a lot more. And your forwards were a lot more engaged. So this is the first time, I've said this a lot, that Jim Montgomery is going to hire his own coaching staff.
Now, let's stick on that for a second. You're not saying with the Blues. It
Ever.
is the first time
in the NHL.
his coaching career at the NHL level that he gets to assemble his staff.
Yes.
That is crazy.
Yeah, he took over in Dallas, and they won, so he carried it over to the next season, and then he was let go midseason. And in Boston, he took over the staff that was there. He won, and then kept his staff because they kept winning until he was fired.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And like,
it's also a reminder of how things work in the NHL. It's just different. This is not like the NFL where you get to clear out your staff and bring in your guys. It a lot of the time is about who's already in the organization.
Well, and the things that Blues fans continue to be upset about is the lack of development for the younger players. They've had the same assistant coaches since Craig Berube. You brought in Claude Julien when Drew Bannister was there, but they kept Steve Ott and Mike Weber. So you've had the same guys. So I think that line of building a coaching staff that's best suited to lead our team moving forward, you're going to find guys that are in the same line of thinking, in the same style that Jim Montgomery wants to coach. Your power play, your penalty kill, the 5-on-5 play. So, yeah, I'm not surprised by this. Again, Mike Weber was a Craig Berube hire, and Claude Julien was a Drew Bannister hire.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. We'll get Mike McKenna's thoughts on this and get his thoughts on what the number one priority should be for the Blues offseason next year on 101 ESPN.
WXOS HD1 East St. Louis 101 ESPN is driven by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm. Report. Your front row seat to all things Cardinals. From the dugout to the diamond, BK and T-Bone go deep with the latest news, notes, and analysis. Watch the Redbird Report on YouTube or listen online at 101ESPN.com. BK and Ferrario are broadcasting live from the E&B Granite Studios at the Centene Community Ice Center, presented by Bud Light and Skimmer's Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN. We're going between the pipes with former NHL goaltender Mike McKenna.
Saved by Mike McKenna. How do you like me now?
Between the Pipes is refreshed by Macadoodle Spirits, fine wine, beer, and cigars. Now open in Darden Prairie.
The Blues season has come to its conclusion, but our conversations with Mike McKenna very much have not. The former NHL goalie joins us weekly here on BK and Ferrario, who does so via the Kiley and Thompson hotline. Mike, appreciate the time as always, man. Blues season has come to its end, and we begin with the obvious question. What grade would you give the Blues for their 2026 campaign?
Oh, hitting you with the grades right off the bat. Happy Friday.
That's right, Professor Mike. Give them to us straight.
All right. Well, you know, if I were grading bourbon out here at Macadoodles, I could have some A-plus picks for you that came in today. But for the Blues, I would have to put it I'd have to put it at a C-plus on the season. And, I mean, if you're a B team, you're making the playoffs. And if you're a C- or a D, you're not great. If you're F, you're the Vancouver Canucks. So I'm going to go with C+, and the reason being is that obviously not making the playoffs was a big hit to everybody's ego, it feels like, in this city, because there were such expectations off of last year. We kind of forgot that last season was another magical run at the very end that got the Blues into the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I think that you saw some growth this year. I think you saw a team obviously down the stretch playing really well, albeit against some teams that didn't have full lineups. You know, we saw that against Minnesota, against Pittsburgh. But this was a step for the Blues with some of the young players to see what they could really do. I just am curious to see how much this lineup's going to shake over the offseason, because it does feel like there's some holes to fill if they're really going to try to accelerate this youthful movement that we've seen. So there were highs, there were lows. That initial month just crushed them. Injuries crushed them. So it's really hard to give a team a D or an F when injuries were such a big part of why the Blues struggled off the bat and were ultimately never able to really get their feet underneath them in the mid part of the season.
Mike, what are some of those moves that you think would accelerate this youth push that they're looking for?
Well, we're looking at it now, and who's got your most value on your team? Where's scoring going to come from? Well, the scoring happened in the last several games. It started to look pretty good. The scoring's coming from the top line. How do you create a viable second line for the Blues that doesn't include Thomas, Holloway, or Snuggerud? Because for me, guys, I don't know. I don't see that line being moved. I can't imagine a world where they're torn apart unless it's a drastic measure by Jim Montgomery to try to get some juice into his lineup. I think you have to look at long and hard at your lineup, at who you have that could bring you some value. That one, I think, is going to get the Blues a really reliable, dependable veteran defenseman. I do think that is a need. As much as I liked Lindstein down the stretch, I still have memories of that forehand, backhand tuck under the bar the other night. Like, just
that was sexy.
From Lindstein. I mean, just so good. He's not quite ready yet. He still needs another bit of time in Springfield, maybe a half season. I think they need that on D. I think they need scoring, whether it's on the wing, but they really need a number 2 center. So, I mean, I looked at it square in the crosshairs here, and you just realize the expendable pieces that have value are probably Jordan Kyrou and Jordan Binnington. And I absolutely hate saying that, because I never want to see Jordan Binnington not be a St. Louis Blue. I'd love to see him go, flag to flag as a Blue. But at this point, Joel Hofer's taken that crease, and I don't think it's a fluke. It's not slowing down. It's his net. So it's going to be an interesting start to the offseason for Doug Armstrong, and as it carries over into Alexander Steen, how can you best utilize assets to try to improve this roster now? Because there are enough prospects. There isn't a big need for more prospects. They're going to get a great pick in the draft, but beyond that, you need some help right now to get this team over the hump into the Stanley Cup playoffs again.
We're talking to Mike McKenna here on 101 ESPN. Former NHL goalie joins us weekly on behalf of Macadoodles here in BK and Ferrario. Mike, I did want to ask you about the Blues offseason as we now project forward. Earlier today, JR had his piece over on The Athletic, putting together the 10 biggest priorities for the Blues this offseason. And number one on his list was extending Dylan Holloway. For you, what would be your number one offseason priority for the Blues?
That's a huge one, clearly. I mean, what Holloway's done for this team and become a driver for them, basically being some found change on the side that they were able to pick up from Edmonton is pretty amazing. I don't think that's my number one, though, just because they're going to sign him. There's no way on earth Dylan Holloway is not going to sign or walk from this team. I can't see that in any world. He's playing top-line minutes. He's a focal point. I just don't see dollars being something that's going to hold that up from coming. It's important, clearly, but I still think I don't see a number two centerman in the Blues organization right now, or number one. I don't see it. And when Thomas is out of the lineup, or if even to flank him, it's just not there. That for me is just the most important pressing matter. Centers are of a massive premium in the NHL, but you can make trades. And I think that they have to do that if they're going to make this team into what the fans want to see.
Mike, the news that just came out actually before you hopped on with us is the Blues not renewing the contracts of Claude Julien and Mike Weber. From a former player's perspective, what's the importance of an assistant coach to a hockey team?
A lot of times they're your conduit to the coaching staff. And I'm disappointed to hear that, especially for Mike Weber, just because I think a lot of that person. Claude Julien as well. I mean, geez, a legendary figure in the game, multiple Stanley Cups. Mike Weber, though, really did a good job with a lot of these young players, I felt. And Steve Ott was in that mix as well. And, of course, Steve Ott in Springfield now has been shifted over to being the head coach of that American League affiliate. But you need people that can communicate and teach and also take care of X's and O's. And I've found that over time that some of your most valuable coaches are the ones you don't hear from. And I have a great example of that was a guy that I played for in multiple cities. His name was Scott Allen. Scott Allen's the assistant coach of the Washington Capitals now. And Scott Allen, man, I had the guy in 3 cities. We were in Omaha together. We were in Peoria for a full season when we were the Blues affiliate. We were in Portland, Maine for a while, then with the Florida Panthers, I guess 4 teams. And, I mean, this guy was a wizard. He worked like crazy. He never took any credit. He didn't want any credit. But he helped every single player that came into that locker room grow as a player. He taught them. He could run a penalty kill. I think the level of respect for assistant coaches that know the game, that know the systems, that know the X's and O's, but can sit you down and teach it and make you feel better about yourself are the guys that really thrive in it. And frankly, I think Mike Weber is that. I hope he gets a great opportunity down the road because, again, I think a lot of him, and I hope that something good comes his way.
Mike McKenna joining us for another couple of minutes here on BK and Ferrario. Mike, final question that I've got for you. I got to ask you about Robert Thomas and what we saw from him down the stretch. We have not talked to you since the game where Jim Montgomery said post-game, hey, I went to the guys, went to Robert Thomas specifically and said, hey, locker room's yours. You go in there. You make sure that these guys are ready to go for the second period. And after that, Blues took off, and they played a great game the rest of the way. Alex came on the next day and said he thought that was a big moment for Robert Thomas to be the one that took control of that locker room and for Jim Montgomery to say that post-game. What did you make of that comment, and what have you made of Robert Thomas's finish to the season this year?
There's 2 parts to that comment. You can take it a couple of different ways, and typically I expect that it's a little bit of both, right? When somebody asks you, is it A or B, and the answer is typically C. My impression on this is that I'm still not convinced Robert Thomas is the guaranteed shoe-in to be the captain of the St. Louis Blues. I don't see that as a negative. I don't think that's a slight to him at all. But I see that as a moment where Montgomery's looking at him, throwing him into the spotlight and saying, we want this to be your room. We need you to lead. It's up to you. So you can grab this and run with it and make it happen. You can step up and do this and take an extra stride in your game. I think that's part of it. You know, I'm not sure this was, I'm looking to the guy that I know can do it. I'm looking to the guy that I think can do it, should do it. We'd love to see do it. Because I still don't know the answer. I mean, haven't been around the room a lot. Jake Neighbors is a natural choice to be a captain of the St. Louis Blues as well. There's good players in that room that could do it. It's just when Robert Thomas is the guy on the ice making everything happen for you, you still want that player to carry some weight, to carry a letter on their chest, and potentially be your captain. I mean, he's out in every situation. He's a Ryan O'Reilly protege type. So it's a cool moment for him. I like the finish to his game. I like that he was shooting the puck more, guys. I mean, obviously having a hat trick is a pretty nice way to finish a season. But I do feel like he was more confident with the puck when they created that line of Holloway and Snuggerud. I think they gave Robert Thomas room to work on the ice. They created space for him to shoot the puck more. There wasn't the same focus as there was when Thomas had Kyrou or somebody else flanking him, because all three, Holloway, Snuggerud, Thomas, they can all score, they can all dish. That's a dangerous line because the defense can't focus on one person.
Mike, we appreciate the time as always, man. It's been great catching up with you, talking about the Blues. But before we let you go, we got to talk a little bit about what's going on at Macadoodles this weekend. Alex is celebrating a birthday tonight. For anybody else out there that might be doing something this weekend, what can they expect when they walk through the doors at Macadoodles?
Well, Alex, happy birthday. I had mine last week, and Disco Stu doesn't like to advertise, so I didn't mention that. But it was a great birthday. Got to spend it with friends and family. Alex, I hope yours is great, too. From 4 to 7 o'clock today, we have a free tequila sampling today, and we got some heavy hitters coming in. We've got G4, Tequila Ocho. We've got a new brand called Zumbador that's additive-free, celebrity-free at a great price point. You can come in and try all these tequilas today. We have Bearwood Spirits coming in that also has their own line of bourbon tequila. They'll be here. I got a big drop of allocated stuff this week. I got Maker's Mark. Their annual wood finish series just came in. The new Booker's is in. Old Granddad 114 7-year just came in. I got Blue Note Weeded in, man. I got whiskey coming out my ears, it feels like, around this joint. And on that note, the first person, actually two people, to come visit us here at Macadoodles at the corner of Bryan and Feisey Road, just north of the Page Extension. First person to walk through that door, ring the bell, and say the word Gold Member can purchase an E.H. Taylor small batch or an Eagle Rare 10-year. So we have each of those bottles available. We'll be open until 9 o'clock tonight, but please swing by, man. We got great tastings today and tomorrow. It's always a blast here at Macadoodles.
Those are the two bourbons that I have right now that are my little sippers at the end of the night. It's an E.H. Taylor and an Eagle Rare.
Little sippers at the end of the night.
Great choices there at Macadoodles for you. Get over there right now. Be one of the first two that walks through the door. Say Gold Member and tell them that we sent you here from 101 ESPN. Mike, appreciate the time as always, man. We'll talk with you again next week.
Sounds great. By the way, it's WrestleMania. Enjoy. Let's go see it out there. Lemon pepper steppers.
That's right. That is Mike McKenna joining us as he does each and every week here on BK and Ferrario. All right, coming up next, Alex, we got to talk a little bit about the NFL. Man, I've got a question for you about what the Jets are doing with their number 2 overall pick in particular. That's where the draft starts.
So do they.
And I don't understand what's happening right now. We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
It's time for another moment in Blues history.
On this day back in 2014, the Blues would win Game 1 of the first round in the playoffs against the Chicago Blackhawks. Adam Cracknell would score first for St. Louis. Then 2 goals by Chicago would put the Blues down by 1. Vladimir Tarasenko would get the equalizer before Chicago would regain the lead before the end of the first period. Then in the third, Jaden Schwartz would tie the game up, his first of the playoffs, with less than 2 minutes to play. And then in overtime, 26 seconds in, Alexander Steen with the game winner.
This date in Blues history is powered by Classic Air Care.
Make your life more comfortable for all your HVAC, plumbing, and electrical needs. ClassicAirCare.com.
Hey, it's BK for my friends over at Victory Men's Health. It is time for you to unlock your inner champion, and the place to do so is with Victory Men's Health. They've done it for me. They can do it for you. Trust me, if they can do it for me, I guarantee they can do it for you over at Victory Men's Health. For me, it was getting some help from their supplement shop. I went in there, found out where all my micronutrient levels were, and they were able to put together a personalized plan for me. Now they send me each month a personalized package of supplements that are ready to go, sent to my front door. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to make a specific trip for this. No, it's ready to go every single month for me. That's what it means for me to unlock my inner champion. Maybe it's something different for you. It could be the low testosterone symptoms. Maybe it's weight loss goals that you're trying to meet, sexual health that you want help with. It's all available for you at Victory Men's Health. They have all of that and so much more. Read all about it at victorymenshealth.com, and that's where you go to book that first appointment online today. They have 4 great locations across the St. Louis area. It's going to be super convenient, super easy to do. Book your first appointment today online at victorymenshealth.com. That's victorymenshealth.com.
Love TMA? Then nominate yourself to be the Morning After Listener of the Month, and you could be selected and score a Form Energy prize pack. Sign up now at 101ESPN.com or TMASTL.com. The TMA Listener of the Month Club is presented by Form Energy. We do the work. Broadcasting live from the Centene Community Ice Center inside the ENB Granite Studios. This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Presented by Bud Light and Skimmer's Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN.
Got some breaking news in the NFL. Will Anderson Jr. has signed a contract extension with the Houston Texans.
Uh-oh, drama.
And it's a big one.
Drama.
3 years, $150 million.
Sheesh.
About $130 million of which is guaranteed at signing.
There's going to be a very upset quarterback that's not getting paid.
Buddy, that is a big-time contract for Will Anderson Jr., the former top 3 selection. That's right, Bradford.
That scared the hell out of me.
I wasn't sure what was happening.
That scared the hell out of me.
I do think this is interesting, Alex, because they have already paid Danielle Hunter. They have already paid Nico Collins. They're going to, I would assume, pay C.J. Stroud.
You hope.
They've already paid Derek Stingley Jr. Now they have paid Will Anderson Jr. That is a lot of really highly paid players at their respective positions. Like Nico Collins, I think, is a top 5 wide receiver. Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., I think now are both top 5 or 10 at the defensive end position.
This is a lot of top-end players at their position, and they've done nothing as an organization.
Well, and the biggest question that they have is their quarterback. So, their defense is the reason they were a playoff team last year.
Things are about to get really hard.
Yep.
This is the year where the Texans better take advantage of this part of their cycle as an organization.
Are they in the Lions spot?
Yeah.
Where the Lions basically was like, you got to win, and if you don't, game over.
The tough part for them is they are less proven than the Lions, because we saw the Lions at least building towards it, and then, had a 2-year window?
I don't think that's fair. I think the Texans are in the same spot.
Yeah.
They were 12-5 last year. Now, they haven't had the playoff success, but neither did the Lions.
I don't think any of us believed in them.
Well, I believed in that defense.
They were hurt an awful lot, too. I mean, Collins was out half of that season.
C.J. Stroud was out for a decent
they didn't have the running back for, the entire season, essentially. So, I understand the offensive side. Their defense was the reason they're a playoff team.
You could make an argument they had the best defense in the NFL last year.
And they just locked up all of these dudes. So, their defense is good. It's just, what are you going to pay C.J. Stroud? How much is that going to handcuff your offensive side? And does your quarterback raise your game?
Cap hits for their team next year. Nico Collins, $27 million. Danielle Hunter, $16 million. Will Anderson Jr., right now, $11. That's going to change. Derek Stingley Jr. this is for 2026. I apologize. For 2027. Take 2. Yeah. Nico Collins, $29 million. Danielle Hunter, $45 million. C.J. Stroud, before an extension, $26 million. Will Anderson Jr., before his extension kicks in, $21 million. Derek Stingley, $30 million. I can't imagine there are more than a few teams in the NFL that have 5 players at $25+ million against the cap. And that's what's potentially in play for the Texans next year. It's just a lot. It's a lot, man. And I understand the cap is going up. It's rising next year. It's about $300 million is what they're currently projecting. Whew. It just gets...
Well, that was the thing that...
it gets expensive quick.
Is why Jerry Jones traded Micah Parsons. He didn't want to get too top-heavy on the cap. With Dak, CeeDee Lamb... I feel like there was somebody else that I'm forgetting there. Maybe it was one of their tackles was pretty high paid. That was what Jerry Jones wanted to do. He wanted to avoid being top heavy.
Diggs, I think.
And it's interesting that that's who it was. And then it's interesting to see the Texans are saying, screw that. We're going to keep all the good players and we'll just see if we can. What they have to do now, and this is where it's tough to BK's point, they have to be really good in the draft now.
Yes.
If you are not good in the draft now, then this build is just going to go south quickly because you're going to have a top-end talent. You're not going to be able to go to that mid-level of free agency, so you have to supplement it with rookie contracts. And if those guys are bad, you're just going to end up swimming around 500.
It goes back to what Dan Campbell said after the NFC Championship game, not this past season, but the year before, where he said it hurts because you never know if you're going to be able to get back to this place again. You never know if it's going to get better than this or if this was the best. And if you're a Texans fan today, there's a chance what you've already seen from your team is the best that it becomes. You hope that's not the case, but it's always possible. And it is in part because it's really hard to build around this many highly paid players at their respective positions. I'd rather do this. You have Will Anderson Jr., you got to re-sign him.
Yeah.
You have Derek Stingley, you got to re-sign him. But it puts a lot of pressure, as T-Bone said, on what they're going to do in the draft. Speaking of the draft, the number 2 overall selection is really where this draft begins, and we'll get to Brad Thompson coming up here in just a minute. I wanted to get your guys' quick thoughts on this because the Jets had a planned visit with David Bailey, the defensive end out of Texas Tech, who all of the speculation over the last week has suggested that's the guy for them at number 2. And then they canceled the draft visit. That seems like a super weird thing to do. And all of the insiders came out afterwards. They're like, this isn't a big deal because they've already done all their homework on David Bailey. There's nothing to see here. Okay. But it's a week before the draft, and you had the draft visit scheduled, and then you canceled it. Why? This is my Brian Windhorst meme of, now why would they do that? That seems super strange to me. Even if you just want to dot all your I's and cross all your T's, you should be taking that visit. If you were truly in on David Bailey at this point in the process, to me, it suggests, and maybe this is a smokescreen, it suggests to me that was the smokescreen was David Bailey. They're actually going to be taking Arbel Reese with the number 2 overall selection. That's my read into it. Maybe I'm overreacting, but it seems super weird that they would just forego a potential data point on a multi-million-dollar decision, a top 2 selection, to say, we didn't need to learn anything more. Spend a day with the guy. Worst thing you can do is it just confirms all of the things you already knew if you're truly interested in drafting him.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I mean, to me, I understand the thought process of now we already know what we need to know, but why wouldn't you get one more day out of it? Yeah. So I also wonder, I can't imagine they would trade that pick, but do they trade that? And maybe that's part of the smokescreen of like, look, we're going to use this one to gain more assets if we drop to the 3rd or the 4th spot, but we also add in a couple of more first-round picks.
There's literally nothing bad about taking a visit. Like, that's what I don't understand about this.
Maybe they didn't have money to go to another steak dinner or something.
Oh, yeah, boy, yeah.
You know, Woody Johnson's like, hey, man, we need to save this money.
Known for being poor.
He's got no money.
Because, like, if there was, like, I don't even know what the scenario would be, like, where it's a data point to, like, working out a player, for example, right? You don't want to do it because there is a chance that, hey, he could get hurt doing a drill. Just using that as, like, a one-off example. All right, sure, I can get that. There's literally nothing that goes wrong. Like, you literally have lunch with this guy, you talk with him, you get an idea on his character. There's no point in not doing that, even if you're not drafting him, right? At least go ahead and do this draft visit that you've had scheduled, so you can continue to throw smoke screens out there on your other, at least for a couple options of who you could be taking at 2 overall.
He's T-Bone. That's Alex. I'm BK. Brad Thompson, Cardinals analyst, World Series champion, joins us next here on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN has your shot to score a 4-pack of tickets to the next St. Louis Battlehawks home games at the Dome at America's Center. You could win a free 4-pack to see the Battlehawks take on the Columbus Aviators Friday, May 8th, or the Houston Gamblers Saturday, May 16th. Get all the ticket info for the next 2 Battlehawks home games and find your chance to win tickets right now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app.
This is attorney Todd Nissenholtz of Kaufman Townsley, and this is the sound of our attorneys walking into court. Because when an insurance company offers a lowball settlement, we go to trial, prepping endlessly, interviewing witnesses. We know the loss and the cost of an accident, and when it's needed, we go to war for you and take the fight to the insurance company, because we've been
It's an NBA play-in tournament doubleheader. Game 1, Hornets and Magic. Game 2, Suns and Warriors. Coverage begins at 6. Your home for the NBA is 101 ESPN. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Leahy looks to provide lift. I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is powered by Saliga Heating and Cooling. St. Louis starts a 6-game road swing tonight at the venue formerly known as Minute Maid Park. Cardinals Astros first pitch set for 7:10. Righty Kyle Leahy faces Peter Lambert. Number 62 tossed 4 innings of 2-run ball last weekend versus Boston. Hockey, Jim Montgomery's Blues concluded their campaign well, edging playoff-bound Utah 5-3. Robert Thomas netting his second hat trick this month. Tomorrow afternoon, 101 ESPN's postseason coverage begins in Big D with Dallas hosting Minnesota. Other Saturday matchups including Senators, Hurricanes, plus Flyers, Penguins. Your Sports Center update was presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN, broadcasting live from the ENB Granite Studios at the Centene Community Ice Center, presented by Bud Light and Skimmer's Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN. We're talking everything Redbirds with Cardinals TV analyst Brad Thompson on 101 ESPN. BT is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings, the ultimate home run for wings and wins.
With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Happy to go out to the Kiley and Thompson hotline to be joined by World Series champion and analyst for Cardinals TV. He's Brad Thompson, joining us as he does each and every Friday. BT, what's good, man?
What's going on, fellas? I'm just here in beautiful Houston, getting ready for a nice 3-game set against the Astros. Looking forward to it, man. The boys have been playing some fun baseball.
It's been really fun to watch. That's the word that I used to describe them coming off of that game on Wednesday, BT. I want to get your thoughts on this because they never feel out of games. They've got some legitimate, I would say, star power, at least the feel of that right now with Jordan Walker. Some of the young guys are starting to show signs of life. What's been your overall impression of just watching this team and the feel of this team after the first 18 games of the season?
Yeah, look, to me, the thing that just continues to stand out is how relentless they are. And I'm sure that we've talked about this, but Ollie talked all spring about how he wanted this team to play, and he wanted them to play youthful and energetic and hard and tough. And those are all great things that I'm pretty sure that every other team probably talks about their team wanting to play like. But it's different when you start the season and then you get into it. Can you actually play that way? And I feel like this club has been able to do that. And I think a lot of that is because of how young they are, how much they are all on an individual level still trying to prove. But you could have something else happen when you have a young team that are trying to, each individual is trying to prove something. You could have very selfish at-bats and selfish plays. And you don't have that. This staff has done such a good job, and these players have done such a good job of just having a team mentality, a winning mentality. So little stuff like a ground ball to the right side, little stuff like caring enough to know where your outfielders are, get a good jump and go first to third, or tagging up on a deep fly ball from first base if you're Vic, who did it the other day, as did Alec Burleson, reading the throws in. The details have truly mattered with this club. So while they haven't had and maybe won't have all of the offensive firepower, although they got 20 home runs, which is right around 10th, I believe, in baseball, which is pretty surprising looking at this group, even though Walker's got the heavy lifting there. They're going to figure out different ways to win games, guys, and to me, that's exciting.
Well, and we talked about this yesterday, BT, that, that style may not be able to win you the World Series, but it sure as heck helps teams get to the World Series when you find those little things. And the importance of them establishing that identity now, I have to imagine, really matters when you're talking about all of these young guys that are going to be coming in over the next couple of years.
Yeah, look, I would even push back and say that's exactly what wins you a World Series, is doing all of those things right. I think we've seen big games on the biggest stages in October be lost because the details fell through the cracks, right? And then you're waiting for that one big swing of the bat, and it never comes. Through the long haul of 162, like, that's the grind. Like, that's kind of where you need some of the power to carry you at times. That's where you need some of the swing and miss from a rotation and a bullpen to be able to carry you. But you're right. Like, they are learning so many lessons along the way, and maybe it ends up being this year. Maybe it's just a magical year where nobody expected this team to do anything, and they squeak their way into October. It certainly will be in the future with the nucleus that they're building. But all of these reps that they're putting in, and all of the physical reps, mental reps, and just all of the learning, it's going to help them. It's going to help them on the biggest stage, and hopefully that is sooner rather than later. But it is crazy important to learn how to play this game the right way, and that's what they're doing.
We're talking to Brad Thompson here on 101 ESPN. BT, over the next couple of days, we'll see Kyle Leahy and Andre Pallante on the mound. I'm not asking this as a leading question. I'm truly curious your thoughts. They have Hunter Dobbins, who's making his way through the minor leagues right now on this rehab stint, where he's got, I think, 2 more weeks left that he could be down there before they have to make a decision on what the plans are with him. Is this a scenario where those guys are pitching for a spot in the rotation right now? Do you think they maybe go to a 6-man at that point? What do you think is the relative near future for this rotation?
Yeah, so near future-wise, I don't feel like anybody is fighting for their rotation life right now. I think it's wise to give guys at least a handful plus of starts to kind of figure out what you've end up have. And things can change, obviously, due to injury and stuff. But when it comes to Dobbins, I know that organizationally they're very high on him. Obviously, they made a deal and had him put in the deal for a reason. So what I could see happening, I think is way more likely, is actually potentially going to a 6-man for a little bit, as the Cardinals do have a stretch coming up where they're going to have a lot of days with no off days. I could totally see that being a thing. And then if you get back to your normal schedule and Dobbins is throwing the ball really, really well and you have a decision to make, I guess that ends up being a good thing, right? Like, you want some of those tough decisions, but I could definitely see that. But as far as Pallante goes and as far as Leahy goes right now, you let him ride it out. You let him go out there and continue to try to learn. I think it's fascinating with Leahy, who is just still learning how to be a starter and learning what that looks like. And Derek Gould wrote a great piece about that, about like the routines that some of these guys have and the fact that he's still trying to figure out what his looks like on a given day. It's going to take some time to figure out what his body needs to be ready every 5th or 6th day, depending on the off days. But one of the biggest keys for him, as we know early in this season, is, okay, how are you going to get out the lefties? Because lefties have had their way with him early on. Left-handed hitters are hitting almost 400 with an OPS over 1,000. And then second and third time around, what adjustments are you able to do? And it's oftentimes not even adjustments. It's not like he's pitching to them incorrectly, but oftentimes execution second, third time around. And for me, that's kind of getting the legs under him. So that's why for Leahy specifically, giving him a little bit more length, giving him the opportunity, just like they did with Matthew Liberatore last year, I think is going to be important. You got to give him some runway to succeed.
BT, on the bullpen side of things, I mean, Riley O'Brien's stuff just continues to be nasty every time we see him.
My God, that guy's good.
What are you seeing just in terms of his confidence on the mound? And do you believe he has established himself as the team's closer now?
Yeah, I think he has. Absolutely. That's the guy you want out there. Now, if he is burnt on a given day, if he's gone 3 out of 4 back-to-back with heavy pitch counts, somebody else is going to have to step up, and they believe they got a couple of guys that can do that. But you hit the word. The word is confidence. Like, he's always thrown 97 to 100 with super sync and then a wipeout slider. He has not always thrown that in the zone. He has not always got ahead, and that is one of the biggest things. The confidence to be able to throw your stuff within the strike zone, know you can compete in the zone, is huge. So Riley O'Brien right now has been rattling them off. He's got just over 10 innings pitched. He struck out 11. He hasn't walked anybody. We know how much of a killer walks are, especially late in ball games. He hasn't shot himself in the foot. Like, this is just a dude that that gets it right now. Like he is just so confident. So for me, it's a no-brainer at the back end of the bullpen with him. You've got your bridge to get to him. I think that we've seen more and more too out of Soriano. I think he's doing a really good job of being one of those bridge guys too. And I was happy for Matt Swanson the other day to have a good outing. He needed that, a scoreless inning with a couple of strikeouts. So the bridge is still going to be a very important part, especially as you have a starting rotation that isn't giving you a ton of innings currently. But golly, man, Riley O'Brien I feel as confident in him coming out as you do most of these big arms in all of baseball that are at the back end of pens.
Last question that I've got for BT here on 101 ESPN. Ivan Herrera has at least one walk in 12 of his last 14 games, BT. He has 18 walks in the first 18 games of the season. The last Cardinal to do that in the first 18 games was Albert Pujols back when you played in 06. The slugging numbers aren't there yet. The average is lower than you would expect. Underlying stuff says, hey, he's going to be fine. What are you seeing right now from Ivan Herrera and his batter's eye, BT?
So this is really the most impressive part to me. The fact that he does have those 18 walks. He's tied with Yordan Alvarez, Mike Trout, Nick Kurtz, like all big boppers. To me, he's not hitting the ball consistently like he wants to, but he's not getting jumpy. That is such a big sign for me of progression just in a guy's approach, that he's not expanding his zone. He's not trying to make something happen. He will continue to let the game come to him. So he is going to start to slug. You know he'll start driving the ball. It was great to see him against the Guardians at least get that first home run. He hit a changeup out in the first inning in Game 2 of the series against the Guardians. Like, those things are going to come. But him being so comfortable in the box and knowing his zone so well and knowing the zone behind the plate as a catcher with the ABS, like, he is I've been very impressed with him around the zone. And you think about this from an opposing pitcher when you have got J.J. Weatherholt, the rookie leading off, who is not afraid to take his walks and now showing a little thump at the 2-home run game against the Guardians. But he runs up pitch counts like crazy. Herrera, who's not expanding his zone. Alec Burleson, who is one of the toughest guys in the league to strike out. Strikeout rate is well under 10%. And then you have Jordan Walker behind him, who's been driving the baseball. All of a sudden, you're starting to get some traffic out there in front of Walker. I hope for him and the Cardinals, you're starting to see those RBI numbers even jump up anymore with that traffic. But it's a tough couple of guys, especially your top four in the order for the opposition.
BT, enjoy yourself out in Houston, man. If you haven't been before, check out Kenny and Ziggy's. It's a fantastic deli.
Kenny and Ziggy's. All right, I'll tell you where we did go to lunch today. We went to a place called Irma's. It's like the original Irma's, Mexican food. Irma was in there in the kitchen. It was incredible. Right behind the ballpark. I can't move right now. So, like, this is as much energy as I have talking to you guys. But Kenny and Ziggy's, you said?
Yeah, it's a fantastic deli, man. If you like New York delis, it's a really good spot.
Yes. Well, where else to look for a New York deli than Houston, of course.
Yeah, obviously.
Houston is a shockingly great food city. I know a lot of people don't love it. It's hot. It's terrible traffic. The city is ridiculously large, but it's a really good spot for food.
No, I love it. Yes. So far, so good in Houston, and hopefully we can say the same thing after this 3-game set.
No doubt. BT, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy yourself down there.
All right, fellas. Have a great weekend.
You too. That's Brad Thompson joining us weekly here on BK and Ferrario. You can watch him this weekend on the Cardinals TV network. You can hear him weekly right here on 101 ESPN. I did not realize just how bad the numbers were for Kyle Leahy against lefties so far this year. That's really interesting. That is not something that I looked into. Righties this season, and BT brought this up, are batting 135 against Kyle Leahy. They have done nothing against him. So if he was in a reliever situation, we would probably be looking at it so far and be like, hot damn, Kyle Leahy's great, man. Yeah. This guy rocks.
He would be the setup man for the closer, in 100%. My opinion, because I think JoJo Romero becomes your seventh inning guy.
And he's used against lefties, and Leahy's used against righties, and they're able to use him in a lane that's able to, get the most out of him. Meanwhile, lefties against Kyle Leahy this season are batting .395 with an OPS over 1,000. They are basically what Jordan Walker has been. When he faces a lefty, they become Jordan Walker against Kyle Leahy so far this season. And he has faced more lefties on the year than righties because opposing teams
they're stacking their lineup.
Are stacking their lineup with lefties.
Yeah. And unfortunately, some of those guys just become bullpen arms. And I know why they're using it right now. They wanted to see it, and you needed time to develop. I do think at some point, though, Leahy is going to revert back to just being the bullpen arm once they get that next piece.
And that was why in the offseason you heard McGreevy, you heard Palante, and I believe Leahy was another one that brought it up, them talking about the kick change. They wanted that against lefties because the Cardinals' rotation last year, and I know Leahy wasn't in it, but the rotation last year was one of the worst in baseball against left-handed hitters. And if you look at it now, it's not just Leahy struggling. It's Dustin May is struggling against him. McGreevy's numbers have been better this year, but it's no coincidence the Guardians threw 9 left-handed batters at him in that game this past week. It's because they know that the right-handers in the Cardinals' rotation struggled against lefties last season, and for Leahy, it's so far continued on.
This should be a better matchup for him. The Astros are a very right-handed heavy lineup. The one real guy in their lineup that can do damage against you as a lefty is Yordan Alvarez.
The best hitters in baseball.
No doubt, but you can pitch around him. He's here. In that lineup against the Guardians, like you can't pitch around their left-handed hitters. There's no ways around them. All of them are lefties. In this lineup, it's Jose Altuve at the top. Then you've got Alvarez. But then after him, you've got Paredes and Correa and Walker. Those are good players, don't get me wrong, but they're righties. And as we've seen, that's the kind of lineup that you see that Kyle Leahy can attack. They only have 3 total lefties on the roster right now in Houston. So this should be a lineup that I would expect Kyle Leahy to have more success against than what he did in his last couple of starts. We'll see. Should be a big one tonight for Leahy against the Astros. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we will talk a little bit more here on 101 ESPN about the Cardinals. But next, it's time for the junk drawer here on 101 ESPN.
Missed the Blues game? Want to hear the highlights? Need player reaction? Want more analysis and opinion? It's all here on Curbside, your next day post-game podcast with the voice of the St. Louis Blues, Chris Kerber. Catch new episodes of Curbside every morning after every Blues game at 101ESPN.com or on the 101 mobile app. Curbside is presented by Bellman Automotive. For the best price on a new Buick, GMC, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, or a used vehicle, shop Bellman in Troy. Online at Bellman.com. You can't do better than Bellman. from the Centene Community Ice Center inside the ENB Granite Studios, you're tuned into BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Presented by Bud Light and Skimmer's Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN. Let's open it up. The Junk Drawer is presented by Bet365. With Bet365 early payout, you win even if they lose. Get paid out instantly when your team goes up big, even if they blow the lead later. Bet365. Winning is everything.
Let's dive into the Junk Drawer. I'd like to talk to Bradford today for the Junk Drawer. You guys good with that?
Turn my microphone off.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Yeah, I was going to say.
I want you guys to be in on this as well.
Well, no, you don't get to talk to somebody and then ask us to be a part of it.
Bradford, I would like to ask you a quick question about your wardrobe.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The guys were wondering, do you own T-shirts that do not have sports associated with them anywhere in your locker?
Fair.
In your closet?
Locker? What do you think? His wife makes him sleep in the basement with a locker?
I mean, he's got a bunch of sports stuff. I assume it's a locker that he has at home, not a closet.
Number one, for the record, I do own a Chicago Bulls Foot Locker. That is one. But yeah, I've got a steady supply of regular T-shirts. I just don't draw them out, gentlemen, in great supply. Yeah.
No, that's fair.
That was the most professional response that I have ever heard.
Out of curiosity, if I set the over-under at 16.5, how many jerseys do you own?
Wow. See, this is why I was disappointed. When was it? A couple of weeks ago when we had the jersey conversation on a Friday, I thought for sure you'd bring me in at that point. 16.5? Oh, you've got to go way over.
That was so
I feel like I've seen more than 16.
It's got to be closer. Like, I would set it at about 25.5, and I would take the over still.
Really?
I think we're talking 30-plus jerseys
That's
that he
what I'm
has.
thinking, too.
25 is a nice shot. 30 would be very reasonable. So tomorrow, for instance, it's just a matter of trying to identify and pinpoint the right James jersey. You have the Lakers getting started in the playoffs with the Rockets. Do I go old school Cleveland? Do I represent with the current edition of the Lakers flow? Or maybe do I even go Bronny James? There's no telling.
You have a Bronny James jersey?
That's right. Prep style, baby.
Really? That's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. That's the kind of jersey that I would buy.
You want to see it next week?
What disposable income do you have that I don't know about? Because these jerseys are ridiculous.
Hey,
and you're talking about having Bronny jerseys.
You also have to recognize, though, quite a few of these jerseys, and the text line can definitely weigh in and probably will weigh in on as much. I have to pull them out of the archives, guys. I will still sport from time to time a St. Louis Rams jersey. I've got Archuleta. I've got SJ39. Heck, I've got old early 2000s NBA jerseys. Nothing is too old, okay?
What's your favorite?
Ooh, the absolute favorite? Sometimes
like asking him to pick from his children.
This is true. I like doing the.
Let's be real. We can all pick our favorite child.
I like doing the self-deprecating.
Yeah, except for you. Wait a minute. What?
I'll go Sam Bradford once in a while for kicks and giggles, but that's not the favorite. You know what? I really enjoy. I enjoy an old school Magic Grant Hill jersey, Scottie Pippen 33 from 1995. The list could go on and on. I mean, guys, you only have a couple of minutes here.
He is the equivalent of when you see rappers on MTV Cribs that show you their tennis shoe room. That's his room with his jersey. Yeah, or their cars, or in the refrigerator where all they got is these sports drinks and, vase water. That's Bradford's closet with basketball.
It's appropriate because I'm stuck in that era.
Yeah. MTV Cribs? Me too, man.
Yeah.
Me too, man.
Do you have a favorite jersey that you own, Alex? Do you own jerseys?
Not that I wear. Yeah, not that I wear. I own jerseys that I have framed. Mine honestly would probably be my Ovechkin one now.
Yeah.
After that he set the gold record. I mean, all of my I think I probably have 5 of them, and three of them are Blues and 2 of them are Cardinals. I have a Yachty Cardinals jersey, a Pujols Cardinals jersey. I have an Eric Johnson Blues jersey, which that thing has been stuffed in the back of my closet. And then I just got 2 random Blues jerseys. And I never wear them.
I've got a Lorenzo Cain jersey. I've got a Jeremy Maclin Chiefs jersey. LeBron James from the Cavs. Michael Jordan from the Wizards.
That is...
I had an Amari Stoudemire from the Suns basketball jersey.
And
Nice.
Will Smith from the from Bel Air Academy.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Dodgers. It's like, what?
I thought you were going to say the
no.
Sharks. I'm like, that's a weird
Yeah.
jersey to go by.
Oh, and I've got a Phil Pressey Mizzou jersey.
And CBK, I thought I was the only one in the Lou who rocked the old Jordan Wizards 23. Well done.
Well, I don't wear it. It's from when I was like 12. But
I don't own a jersey. I've never owned a jersey. That I can
Really?
remember. I don't think I've ever owned one.
I realized when I purchased my Amari Stoudemire basketball jersey, I don't have the body type to wear basketball
I
jerseys.
typically don't even get like shirts.
again, that's only a beach thing, man.
I don't even think I keep my shirt on at beaches.
Remember, fair.
What?
I don't have that body type, man.
Oh, I don't either, but the
Remember,
shirt's
I'm
off.
skinny.
the NBA went to like the sleeved jerseys there for a
Yeah.
while, and
I
the
hated
idea
those.
behind I did too, but the idea was because of people like Alex who don't want to wear the sleeveless
Yep. We don't have
jerseys,
the body
so they
type.
would wear them so that way they could sell them.
I
That
feel
was
like
the whole idea
I feel like
behind
if you want to pull off wearing the basketball jerseys like out in public, you have to have biceps that like are just redonkulously big. And I didn't have those, and I'm like, nope, can't wear this. So I put it on, and I'm like, I look like a total D-bag. And I said, I'm never wearing this.
It's the same thing with like having a sleeve on your arm, a tattoo sleeve.
Yeah.
You got to have a certain kind of look.
Or those muscle shirts that people walk around and wear them all the time. It's like, no, that's an undershirt for me. I'll wear that as an undershirt. I don't wear that out in public.
None of the three of us have the correct.
I spent a lot of time in the gym, though, so I'm getting there. By next year, I might have the pipes for it.
Alongside Alex,
You never know,
I'm
T-Bone.
BK. It's BK and
Watch out.
Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Somebody on the text line asked us for something political to discuss.
Nope.
And I will go ahead
Out.
and reject.
All right, next segment.
Coming up next, I think we're talking about the draft for the Blues.
We are indeed. How much
I have
does
no
it
idea.
matter that the Blues are likely selecting outside of the top 10 this year? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
Get social with 101 ESPN. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, Threads, Blue Sky, and YouTube at 101 ESPN.
WXOS, WXOS HD1 East St. Louis. 101 ESPN is driven by Auto Centers Nissan, home of the lifetime warranty and 30-day return. BK and Ferrario are broadcasting live from the E&B Granite Studios at the Centene Community Ice Center, presented by Bud Light and Skimmer's Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN.
Blues are probably going to be picking outside of the top 10 this year. They screwed it up again, Alex.
No, we're not doing this.
Their draft pick was in the top 3 whenever the Olympic break took place.
Can't hurt me.
And now they're at 11 if they do not win the NHL draft lottery. It's also possible they could move down a little bit further if somebody behind them were to win.
Yeah, like the Red Wings moving up, huh?
Yeah, so then you would pick fifth
and 12th. And I'm okay with that.
That would be better than where you're at currently.
No, it wouldn't. It really doesn't.
How much does it matter, Alex, that the Blues are probably not going to pick in the top 10?
From what I have heard from scouts and people that watch these prospects more than I can even admit, not by much. I mean, it's a little bit of a drop-off if you're talking 8 to 11, but the way that they framed it to me is you're going from getting a certainty top line player or top pair defenseman to a 75% chance top line player or top line defenseman. And like, because I was really curious because of so many people's reaction last night when I put it out there that to me, 8 to 11 doesn't really matter because I'm going off of Scott Wheeler's ranking, who, I mean, we all can agree this guy knows his stuff. He's been doing it long enough because when he put together his tiers, there were only 2 guys in tier 1, and that was McKenna and Stenberg. And then there were 10 players in tier 2. And you might hear that and you'd be like, yeah, well, you're not getting tier 1. You were never getting tier 1. But tier 2, for example, last season, here were the guys that were in tier 2 for Scott Wheeler. James Hagens, Porter Matone, Caleb Denoyer, Anton Frindell. All of those guys went top 6, top 7. And then you got tier 3, where that was where Justin Carbonneau was at. For another example, with a little bit more certainty behind them, tier 2 back in 2023, when the Blues drafted Dalibor Dvorsky, he was in tier 3. Tier 2 was Matvei Michkov, Adam Fantilli, Leo Carlson, and Will Smith.
So this is a really good draft.
This is a very deep draft. From the prospect people that I was texting with, you want to be in the top 12 of this draft because in the top 12, you are getting a borderline tier 1 player. He said the drop off is after 12. And so when I was texting with him, he was like, look, if you're picking at 11, you're going to get either Ethan Belkets, who is a 6'5", 227-pound forward, Vigo Bjork, who is a smaller Swedish player, but they say he's probably got the best skill set of any forward in this draft. And then there's a couple of defensemen that you can draft.
I was about to say, it seems like that second tier is basically a few centers and then a bunch of defensemen.
Correct. Well, and there's actually more forwards than defensemen. There's about 3 defensemen that they've said that you'll probably get in that spot. Albert Smits, Daxon Rudolph, or Ryan Lynn. And then there's about 4 or 5 forwards. Now, you can argue if they're center or wingers. A lot of these guys are wingers in the sense of where the Blues probably are going to utilize them, but some of them can be centers. So, again, the consensus, what's the word I'm looking for? Consensus. Thank you. God, I blanked on that one.
I knew that was wrong. I don't have great vocabulary.
The consensus that I heard last night was that as long as you're picking in the top 12, you're getting a really good player. There's about 4 guys in this draft that can play in the NHL next year, and those guys are all going to be going in the top 4. After that, you're going to still get a really good player if you're the Blues.
It concerns me a little bit just because this season, for so much of the season, we talked about their lack of a superstar, their lack of that talent that can really put them over the top. I mean, you look at the legitimate Stanley Cup contenders in the NHL postseason this year, they all have that, and it's something that separates them from the Blues. And so you looked at this season, I was like, all right, well, if you're going to go through all this crap, at least at the other end, you're going to get something out of it. You're going to get an Ivar Stenberg. You're going to get a, what's the other guy's name? Gavin McKenna.
Yeah.
And now it feels very unlikely that that's going to be the case. But what you did get out of this run is a belief once again that maybe Robert Thomas can be that for you. Maybe Dylan Holloway can develop into maybe not a superstar level player, but the kind of guy that could score 30 goals, produce a point per game, and be a plus player on both sides of the ice. Maybe you could get a 30-plus goal season out of a guy like Jimmy Snuggerud. And that top line might be able to go up against the other top lines across the NHL. What you're missing right now is that middle six. The secondary scoring has evaporated for the Blues. A lot of that is because of Pavel Buchnevich and Jordan Kyrou, but it's not only because of those two players. I also think you're lacking a middle six center, specifically a second-line center. And I do wonder if maybe some of these guys that you're talking about here, Alex.
I think there's only one guy in this draft that's probably going to go in the top 15 that has any shot of being a second-line center.
Really?
And that's that Caleb Malhotra. And even he isn't going to be on your team next year. He's committed to Boston University.
I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, just because.
No, it's not.
If you're playing the long game, then that's fine, right? If they go into next year and are saying, hey, we're still kind of retooling, we're playing the longer game, we want to be competitive again here in like 3 years of contending for a playoff spot, then you can convince me on that there. Well, because otherwise, like, to his question on or his point on they're missing a second line center, BK's also mentioned this before. Okay, welcome to the club of like 26 other NHL teams. Like, they're just not out there. Nobody seems to be happy with what they have at the second line center position.
What's funny about this too is one of the scouts that I was texting with last night basically said, you can still get Malhotra if you're the Blues. He's like, in the person's opinion I was texting with, the top four are going to be Stenberg, McKenna, and two defensemen. He's like, if you look at Calgary and New York, those two teams are probably going to need franchise defensemen. But he said after that, he said, Toronto, they don't need centers. They need scoring help and help on defense. So there's Malhotra moving down a spot. Then he said, Seattle. Seattle's already got Matty Beniers, Chandler Stevenson on top of a kid that they drafted last year and Shane Wright. So they're not going to take a Malhotra, or maybe they move out of that. The Winnipeg Jets. Now, there's where Caleb Malhotra could go. But then he said, if you've got 11 and 15, and if a team like the Winnipeg Jets that want to win right now, or after that, the Florida Panthers that want to win right now, it's like you could convince those teams to trade you that pick if you give them your 2 first-round picks in this year's draft and next year's third-round pick and maybe a prospect. You could convince them, so you could still realistically get Caleb Malhotra. It's going to have to be the Blues being aggressive. And that's even if you want Caleb Malhotra, because this is the part that I was trying to explain last night. The difference between 8 and 11, to me, comes down to how good is your scouting department. Because when Justin Carbonneau was selected last year, Doug Armstrong told Curbs and I on our show, they thought he was gone in the top 10. And teams get aggressive for other pieces, and that drops players down. Dalibor Dvorsky, we were told on our pre-show when we talked with either Pronman or Wheeler, Dvorsky's not going to be there for you at 10. He's going to go top 6. And there were 3 teams that got overly aggressive for players that pushed Dalibor Dvorsky down to top 10. There are going to be teams that look at this and say, like, oh, well, this guy's better than this guy. I trust the process of a Tony Feltrin that sees where this draft is. If this is as deep as they're saying, man, they may have a guy ranked number 1 on their chart that other teams have ranked 15th in the draft.
Here's where it gets tough. I trust Tony Feltrin when it comes to the draft of getting a good player, but that's not what they're missing. They're missing the superstar, and they don't have that available to them when we're 8 through 11. But you can
find a superstar somewhere in 8 and 11.
Let me tell you what you can find. It's like finding a needle in a haystack is what it is. I mean, when you look at teams that end up finding stars that are outside really the top, I would say 5, it's typically they luck into them, right? It is Wild is an example of this with Kaprizov. They got lucky that they found Kaprizov. 99% of the time, you're not going to get that. Now, maybe this is the draft where they do get lucky and find that.
You could call it luck, but I'd also call it a good scouting department that sees the talent.
It can be both.
Yeah, I don't just label it all as they lucked into it.
I would bet most of the time, though, if you put those organizations on truth serum, the Wild weren't saying we just drafted our next superstar. They were probably saying we just drafted a guy that could probably score 20 goals in our top 9. Well, they drafted Kaprizov.
I guess I would ask you this, Alex. I do think that the Blues deserve the benefit of the doubt based upon their draft history. I think they're really, really good at this. They might be the best the best scouting department in the NHL. They're at least in that conversation based upon the last decade of evidence of what they've been able to get, not only out of the first round, but just in drafting in general. That being said, I do think Tanner's got a fair point here where most superstars are seen as that in the NHL draft. They are viewed as this is going to be a superstar, and then they become that, right? There are outliers where they come out of nowhere, or they're late bloomers, or there was a risk in their profile, whatever the case may be. There are those guys that are surprises. The Blues have not lucked into really any of those guys, basically since Vladimir Tarasenko. They have not drafted a superstar in that stretch. Mm-hmm. And so if you're going to acquire one, I think the most likely way to do so is via a trade. I don't think it's happening in free agency. There really aren't any available in free agency, and this isn't a typical free agency destination for those guys. You're probably going to have to do so via trade. I don't think it's fair to expect that out of the number 11 overall pick. So if you're a fan right now that's saying, we just messed up our best chance to get one of those guys, I think that's reasonable. But I also think you have a chance to have one of those guys with, Jimmy Snuggerud, but more likely Thomas and or Holloway. I think that's where you're probably going to get it. And then maybe via trade. I would also add this. If you think the most likely outcome with the number 11 overall pick, most likely, not guaranteed, but most likely scenario is you get a defenseman in that spot, would that make it more likely for you that you would be targeting a forward if you decide to trade Jordan Kyrou this offseason?
Oh, it's a good question. So meaning like if Kairou's gone, were you more likely to try and get a forward in this draft rather than
Opposite.
A defenseman? Oh,
if you're trading Jordan Kyrou, and the odds are they'll probably want to do that prior to the draft. So that will be the first domino to fall potentially this offseason. Would you be targeting a forward as your primary acquisition target for Jordan Kyrou because you are of the belief that it's more likely you end up with a defenseman in the draft? So that defenseman that's selected number 11 overall, they're going to be one of your top prospects most likely.
Okay, I see what you're saying. The draft, like we always talk about, is best available player. I think my decision at the draft could be dictated off of what I get in return of Kyrou. I don't know if it's a certain thing that I'm getting a forward for Kyrou. They may target the defenseman for Kyrou. And then if you target the defenseman for Kyrou, then you're like, all right, well, now let's look at the forward position.
That could pigeonhole you, though, because picking 11, you said there's 12 elite players. You're not picking really for yourself. The rest of the league is kind of picking for you.
Yeah. Well,
and then you're left with whatever they don't select.
But that's why I also wonder if you get aggressive to try and move up in this draft.
I would caution
because you do have a shot to get up. I think you could trade as high as 7 in this draft.
See, I would caution you. We don't see anybody trade lately in the NHL draft. Like, it just if we were to see that like in the NFL, I bet you we see probably 3 first-round trades go down this year. Now maybe they're in the back half compared to what we're talking about here. We thought that was going to happen when we went with they had 3 picks and nothing happened.
But teams typically don't have as much ammunition to trade in that draft. And what I mean by that is like you have 2 top 15 picks. Like most teams may have a 12th or 13th overall pick that want to move up, but they don't want to give up next year's first or the next year's first because they don't know what their seasons are going to look like.
The other possibility here is that 2 of those guys in the top 12 are there for 11 and 15.
That's the other thing,
another
too.
Scenario
I mean, like, you also have to remember there are a lot of, like, I could go through the last 5 drafts. We don't have time for it. And look at a team that got overly aggressive and drafted somebody that wasn't slated to go until like 25 or 30. Or that could be the Blues. Like, I'm not going to dive into the weeds, but there's 2 kids in this draft right now that are projected to go like late first, early second that are brothers that a lot of scouts have said, like, these guys could be top 10 picks if they move up. So there's chances that other teams get overly aggressive and make mistakes. There's chances that the Blues can move up. The big picture of what I'm saying is I don't believe this draft is the draft that you could have gotten that franchise superstar like Macklin Celebrini. I think this draft is more likely to be you got the chance of getting a guy who's a star player, but more times than not, these guys are just really, really good pieces. And that's okay by me if I'm picking at 11 or 8. 1 and 2 is a very different conversation. Yeah, you screwed that up, but I don't think you were ever going to be there. 8 to 11, you're going to get the same player in that spot. It's just a matter of who's available to you, or do you get aggressive and try and move up?
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. It's 1:22. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Coming up next, time for One's Gotta Go. You give us 4 options. We'll tell you which one's got to go here on BK and Ferrario.
You can now watch 101 ESPN live on our Air Alliance Team Studio Cams. Catch every show live on our YouTube channel or at 101ESPN.com. 101 ESPN Studio Cams.
Presented by the Air Alliance Team Heating and Cooling. Getting the job done quickly, correctly, 100% of the time.
101 ESPN has your shot to score a signed puck autographed by Blues forward Jordan Kyrou.
Kyrou is speed.
Enter to win now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 app, powered by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. Broadcasting live from the Centene Community Ice Center inside the E&B Granite Studios. This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Presented by Bud Light and Skimmers Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN. This is BK and Ferrario. Time now for One's Gotta Go. We offer up the talking points, and you get to pick which one's gotta go on 101 ESPN.
Count that big pen.
314-399-9646. That is the Your Comfort Service text line for One's Gotta Go. You give us 4 different options. We'll tell you which one's gotta go here on BK and Ferrario. Let's start out with this from Bacon Wrapped Wiener. One's gotta go corn edition. T-Bone.
Corn? The music, I'm assuming?
Corn on the cob. Canned corn. Creamed corn.
Oh.
Or popcorn.
Cream corn.
Cream corn.
Get
That
the
stuff's
hell out of here.
disgusting.
That's something
I
old
can't-
people eat.
Absolutely gross.
No texture on it.
It serves no purpose.
Ugh.
It should be outlawed in 50 of the 50
I'm with
states.
If not for cream corn, corn on the cob would get gone. That's disgusting, and I think people are disgusting that eat corn on the cob in front of other people.
Cut it off.
That's what I do. But people that just go dive into it and make the noise while they're eating
It's also a beta boy move, just so you know.
I don't care. I think it's even. I think it's nasty to eat corn on the cob in front of other
Put your
people.
face right in.
Yeah, and you make those damn noises while you're.
I hope you never do that again. One's gotta go wings edition. Drums or flats?
Oh, flats.
I think I'm gonna get rid of flats as well.
I'm gonna get rid of drummies.
It makes
I
you
don't need
nasty.
them in my life.
It makes you dirty. And once again, you kind of look like a slob when you meet them out in public.
Yeah, I like
getting
the
all over your
drums,
face. You're like pushing through the wind. It's nasty.
I like the flats a little bit
Be
better.
a man and just.
One's gotta go fruit edition. Apples, grapes, oranges, or strawberries.
Yeah, T-Bone doesn't eat fruit, just like
You
he
don't
doesn't
eat
drink
any
water.
fruit?
Hold on. What were those again?
Apples,
Eat them.
grapes,
Eat them.
oranges, or strawberries.
You know what's funny?
I'd
I'd get
say-
rid of oranges because I don't eat oranges a lot.
I would probably say oranges just because I don't eat them a lot and they're a pain to peel.
Yeah. I drink orange juice. I don't eat
Yeah.
oranges.
I'd rather have orange juice than just eat
All the other ones I'll eat
I'm not a
throughout
big
the
fan of
day.
strawberries.
You don't
but
eat fruit?
I prefer to avoid it, Replace that with a good old French fry. Yummy.
You'll be lucky to see 40, man.
That's okay.
Buddy, are
There's not
you
much to go
okay?
for. Yeah, I'm fine.
No
Brandon.
water, no fruit. When was the
By
last
the
time
way,
you had a vegetable?
The lack of water today is really the lack of water today has really hurt me. I think it's why my head is killing.
Yo, what?
So,
Really?
Yeah, I had too much coffee today.
My wife legitimately has like sips of water a day.
Oh, Katie.
That's all
She
you need.
exclusively drinks Diet Coke.
Yeah, Katie-
It's unbelievable.
Katie
She's a
threw out.
modern marvel when it comes to her health.
Katie throughout
It's amazing.
college is the opposite of that. She carried a mug of water and probably went through about 4 of them in a day.
Oh yeah, I drink like 6 of these every day.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, my wife you couldn't.
I'll
You would
typically
never
do
see her just drink regular water.
about
No
2
chance.
bottles of
That's the
water
way
a
to
day
do
is
it.
what I get.
Yeah, I'm coffee in the morning and then probably like tea at night.
Coffee in the morning, energy drink in
Or
the
tea in the
afternoon, and then
afternoon,
a sody pop at
Tea in
night.
the
Do
afternoon.
you drink soda?
No, not really. No, I like more of like
Do you have any other liquids?
Yeah, whiskey.
green tea. Oh, whiskey at night.
You're
sip on it.
exclusively
alcohol and
drinking
coffee.
caffeine?
No. Like I'll drink some water at night,
kind
and
of
kind of in
tea?
the afternoon. But like I prefer to have like green tea or like unsweetened tea in the afternoon.
You know that has caffeine, which
I
makes
know.
you more
How do
dehydrated.
you think I can stay awake in the afternoon?
It's by taking a 3-hour nap.
That's a 30-minute nap on
wish I
top
could
of
do
my
that.
caffeine.
Grow up, Tanner.
No.
Amazing.
No.
Absolutely amazing. All right,
I'm
one's
making
gotta
a
go.
T-shirt that says "Grow up, Tanner."
Ribs, pork steak, pulled pork, or brisket.
This is just a list of what's got to go. You look like a slob eating edition. Ribs got to go.
Pork steak, gross.
Yeah, I'm getting rid of pork
No, I
steaks.
love
I'm
pork steak.
not a fan of
I
pork
love
steaks.
pork steak.
Yeah, my grandparents loved them. Every time I'd go over there to grill for them, they'd always say, let's
love
grill
pork
pork
steak.
steaks. And I'm like, oh, can we not grill
Don't get me wrong.
anything
I would do a
else?
steak over a pork steak any day, but I'll go pork steak before I'll go ribs.
One's got to go Cardinals City Connect jerseys or the Blues retro jerseys.
Blues
Oh,
retro.
City Connect jerseys.
I love the Cardinal City Connect jerseys.
I really like
because it says the Lou.
No, I just think the design on it's cool. I don't care if it said the Lou or the Cardinals.
No, retro blues.
It's got to go.
That was my childhood.
It's got to go.
I
Is
like
that
both
the
of
red
them.
one? Yeah, that thing is disgusting.
No, you're disgusting.
Nothing like a team that's blue wearing red. Just like a team like City that's like pink and they're wearing gold for their
That's
away
like the prime years of Blues hockey where it was Hall and Cujo and Grant
What did
Fuhrer.
they ever win?
A lot of hockey
Nothing.
teams.
Well, they just went up against this Red Wings team. I don't know if you've heard about them or not. They're pretty good.
It was
Alongside
pre-me,
Alex
you
and
old
T-Bone,
guy.
I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. What grade would you give the Blues for their
Rewind.
2026 campaign? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley, St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
Jamie Rivers here, and it is time for another one of my jersey giveaways. And right now, you can register to score a signed Jordan Binnington Blues jersey. Yes, beautiful Jordan Binnington Blues jersey. Gotta love it. Enter to win that autographed Binner jersey at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app. Jamie's jersey giveaway is presented by St. Luke's, ranked top 2% in the nation for cardiac surgery by Health Grades. Visit stluke's-stl.com. That's stluke's-stl.com.
hear from you. Use the Scott Lee Mic Drop feature on the 101 mobile app. Give us your opinion on anything St. Louis sports with a mic drop.
Brought to you by the Scott Lee Heating Company.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
Walker takes his show on the road. Happy Friday. I'm Bradford Bruns, your Sports Center update powered by Universal Windows Direct. Jordan Walker has rattled off an 11-game hitting streak, pushing his batting average over .315. Tonight, the NL home run leader aims to conquer H-Town. Cardinals-Astros first pitch planned for 7:10 p.m. Mound-wise, Kyle Leahy opposing righty Peter Lambert. Pucks, Robert Thomas propels St. Louis past Utah 5-3. Number 18 potting another hat trick. Jim Montgomery's Blues closing their season with a 37-33-12 record. Our Stanley Cup playoff opener tomorrow afternoon pits Dallas against Minnesota. Besides that Central Division battle, first round matchups out west include Kings, Avs, Ducks, Oilers, as well as Mammoth, Golden Knights. This Sports Center update was presented by Universal Windows Direct. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Broadcasting live from the ENB Granite Studios at the Centene Community Ice Center. Presented by Bud Light and Skimmers Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Jim Montgomery joining the Fast Lane coming up at 2:30 today. By the way, we will have full coverage of the Blues exit interviews tomorrow. Alex will have that posted on his social media accounts at Ferrario101 ESPN. We also have a bunch of that on the YouTube page at youtube.com/101 ESPN STL and all of the 101 ESPN social feeds as well. So be sure to follow us all over the place: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of those different places that you can find people. That's where we are. We are wherever you are. So find us there, and we'll make sure that we have all of that stuff updating you throughout the day tomorrow as the Blues are officially having their exit interviews.
DK
By the way,
and Ferrario, we are where you are.
Yeah. By the way, we also have the latest edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast and the Redbird Report. Both of those available for you right now at youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. A super easy way to get that if you prefer to listen to them instead of watch them. Go to the BK and Ferrario podcast feed. Again, wherever you are, we are there. Subscribe to that. And when you do so, you'll get the BK and Ferrario podcast each and every day delivered to your phone the moment that it is put onto the feed. And you'll get the latest edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast there and the Redbird Report. They all go through that feed as well, so you can subscribe to those today.
Just look in your back seat. We're right there.
Encourage you the whole way.
Check your closet. We're right there.
We're backseat drivers. Break.
Tanner's right here.
So let's talk a little bit about the Blues, Alex. Season came to an end yesterday. As of today, they would have the 11th overall selection in the NHL draft. Still a 3% chance they could move up to number 1 or number 2, but 11th overall today.
Yeah, man, that 0.5% of being 10th versus 11th overall really sucks, guys.
I'd rather have that increased chance to win $1 million than not.
I don't think I care.
Noodle eye.
What grade would you give the Blues season this year?
D+.
JR gave him a D earlier today. What grade would you
I'd go D+. And I understand Mike saying earlier that he'd go a C because, you know, you were right there towards the end. You had the incredible build with Thomas's line, with Broberg and Mayu, and with Joel Hofer. I'd still say you underperformed, though. Without that Robert Thomas line, I think we are talking about a top 3 pick because nobody on this team scored with the exception of that Thomas Holloway Snuggerud line. I do think there was some stunting developmentally for guys like Neighbors and Dvorsky. You know, it kind of hit a wall at some point, which makes sense for a Dvorsky for how much hockey he has played. Neighbors, I think we can explain on the offensive side of things. But you did have a massive setback, in my opinion, what was the core of this team prior to the beginning of this season in terms of Buchnevich and Jordan Kyrou. Way too many inconsistencies from the offensive and defensive side of your defensemen, and your goaltending struggled early on, which kind of put you in that spot. Your special teams wasn't very good. The coaching staff basically said that, you know, they let their guard down early on in the season and got frustrated. So it may sound unfair to a lot of people. I would not give them an F because to me an F is what the Canucks and the Flames and the Blackhawks and the Rangers were. But I think a D+ is probably right where I would give them.
I'll answer my question first by asking you guys a question. How many players on the Blues roster this year would you say outperformed what our expectations were for them coming into the season?
Ooh.
I would
put
say
Hofer on that list. I thought Hofer would be good, but I think he was.
I'd say 4. I'd put Hofer, I'd put Snuggerud, I'd put Broberg, and I'd put Mayu.
Oh, Mayu, I did not have it on my list, but I had the other 3.
Yeah. I'd put Mayu because my expectation was he was always going to be a third-pair defenseman. He not only finished the season with 5 goals, he played power play minutes for you, top penalty kill minutes, and finished the season. If I'm not mistaken, every game since the Olympic break, he has played more than 20 or more than 19 minutes. So he would exceed my expectations.
Now, let's go to the opposite side of things.
This is a long
How
list,
many
man.
players underperformed relative to expectations? Not reached the expectations, but legitimately underperformed relative to what you were
going to
hoping.
be able to write this fast?
Yeah, I was going to say, people are not going to agree with this. I'd say Holloway. And it's not due to his skill. It's due to the injury.
I think that's fair.
Thomas, without question.
Yep.
Booch, Kyrou, Neighbors.
I would say Fowler.
Fowler, I agree.
Fowler got better down the stretch, but overall, yeah, I would say Parayko.
I agree. Would you put Bennington? I think has got to be in that conversation.
Bennington is on that list.
Torpo.
Sure. I didn't really have much expectation for the fourth line.
I did. I had real expectations for Torpo, and he had 11 points this season.
My expectations for the fourth line weren't there when they didn't bring back Radek Faksa, because to me, I thought that fourth line was going to have issues. But I can understand if you want to put him on that front. I wouldn't put Dvorsky in that camp. I think he met my expectations.
I'm with you.
Suter probably exceeded my expectations.
Oh, really? I
that
think
guy was good.
He had 46 points last year when he signed that
I
deal.
would say met expectations for Suter. He was a plus 13 for you. He was good defensively, played in all situations.
Look how many minutes he played, though. He did not get a whole lot of time to do what he could have done.
I would say he met expectations for me.
I could hear the argument of exceeded.
Listed half the roster was below our expectations. I say all of that to say they got a D, man.
Yeah.
This was a really disappointing season for the vast majority of the roster. I would say 3 guys outperformed. Broberg, Snuggie, Hofer. Those are the ones that are easiest for me to throw into that category. I could listen to the argument, Alex. I hear what you're coming from with Mayu. But really, those 3 to me stand out. And Broberg, even, I'm not entirely sure he really outperformed what my expectations were for him, because I thought he was going to be a really good player coming into the season, and he was just a really good player this year. So really, it might just be Snuggie and Hofer that truly outperformed where I thought they would be this season. That's a D. You missed the playoffs. The expectations were to get back. You were one of the worst teams in the NHL for the majority of the season. That was not expected. So much so that you had to trade your captain and Justin Falk at the trade deadline this year. I'd give it a D. And now you're leaving the season, and a couple of the assistants are not coming back for next year. Steve Ott was put down into the AHL level. There's a lot of changes that were necessary, are necessary, and now you're wondering what the future holds. D for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I agree with what Alex said earlier. I don't think it could have gotten to an F. It would have had to been Canucks-like season. The top line is really the thing that drove you towards a D, because they were the only thing that we can look at, and it's fair not to question of – you can question of what this group looks like as a whole. I don't know if you can question, okay, when that top line was put together, we know that they're at least going to be good. Are they going to be great like they were in the second half? I think that's fair to question, but we know at least that group works well. Hofer ended up solidifying himself as a 1. Outside of that, there were no positive developments for this organization. In fact, your hope was that they were going to be left off. We talked about this last year at the end of the offseason. The hope was that by the time this season got done, not that they were going to win a cup, but they would be a playoff team, and you would feel like Army was leaving the organization in a better spot for Alexander Steen. And I can't confidently say that today. I know he's got more assets to try and make things happen, but I can't guarantee that he is in a better spot now today as Steen takes over the roster on, July 1st after the NHL draft. I just can't. I don't know what – they have to determine what direction they're going to go, and how aggressive they're going to be. And there's too many question marks for a big chunk of this roster. So, yeah, I think it is a D, and I would say that it's a huge disappointment for the St. Louis Blues this year.
I think a lot of those questions, by the way, that you have, I think a lot of them could be answered before Steen even takes over. I think there is a lot of work that Doug Armstrong is going to do between now and July 1st.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up next, we will finish out our show, finish out our week with a rewind here on 101 ESPN.
Tonight, it's an NBA play-in tournament doubleheader. Game 1, Hornets and Magic. Game 2, Suns and Warriors. Coverage begins at 6. Your home for the NBA is 101 ESPN. has your chance to win a pair of passes to Holiday World and Splash and Safari. Free soft drinks, free parking, and free sunscreen at Holiday World and Splash and Safari. Find your shot to score a pair of free passes right now at 101ESPN.com or your 101 mobile app. Holiday World and Splash and Safari opens on May 9th. Start planning your trip at holidayworld.com. Live from the Centene Community Ice Center inside the ENB Granite Studios, you're tuned into BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Presented by Bud Light and Skimmer's Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN. Let's run it back with the Daily Rewind on BK and Ferrario. Brought to you by Gloria Lou, your home sold guaranteed realty. Selling your home begins at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
Hey, Chris Kerber's hanging out at Hot Shots.
He said it last night on the broadcast. He's like, if they score 5, because they were doing the 5 goals and $3 tacos at Hot Shots. And he's like, if they score 5 tonight, I'll be there tomorrow. And by God, Chris Kerber is a man of his word.
He sure is. He's
go out there and get some
tacos
tacos with him.
If you want to see him, you can do exactly that. It's in Fenton?
Yeah,
is that right?
Fenton one. Yep. They swing by, see if they'll buy me some hot dogs.
Hot dogs?
Yeah, I want a hot dog instead of a taco.
Do they serve hot dogs there?
They serve everything at Hot Shots, man.
So you can hang out with Chris Kerber and maybe Alex Ferrario out at the Hot Shots in Fenton. Jim Montgomery is going to be hanging out on the fast lane. He'll join the guys coming up at 2:30 later this afternoon. If you missed any of our conversations today, you can check it all out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, or the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. And those are all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company. I pulled the trigger quickly, but let's be honest. You paused there at the worst time ever, man.
Mike McKenna joined us today. We were also joined by Brad Thompson. Some really good conversations about the Blues as well. Alex was big mad earlier today, but I think he's brightened his day up with our 3 hours together here on BK and Ferrario.
That's just you trying to make it seem like you got me in a better mood. I've been fine. You couldn't get to me. You couldn't hurt me today.
Alex, the Blues finished the season this year 37, 33, and 12 overall. Finished with a 4-game winning streak. They are currently slated to pick 11th overall in the NHL draft. As we look back on this thing, we'll do plenty more breaking down what the season was, what it wasn't, and what it all means. How would you summarize what we witnessed from the 25-26 Blues?
A bump in the road of season. I think the Blues mindset and timeline was that this was the step that they were going to make to start at least being competitive. And if you go back and listen to what Doug Armstrong talked about, it was 5% better from what they were last year. And that would have been a 100-point team. And you did not finish anywhere close to that. You took a step backwards. But with that all being said, I believe you've learned a little bit more about your team. One, their inability to play competitive hockey early on. They have to fix that at the beginning of the season. Two, some of the elements that you were desperate for and screaming for all season long of not having a top line, not having a top pair defenseman, and really not having goaltending. I think all 3 of those were answered for you this season. So to me, this was a bump in the road year for the Blues. But I also don't believe this team is in a worse spot than what they were last year. I think they've got pieces that are coming in next year, Carbonneau, Jiricek, that are going to continue to build this team. You finally have seen a top line that I believe can be consistent if they can stay healthy. So to me, I think this Blues team is just going to go right back to where they were expected to be this past offseason of fighting for one of those bottom playoff spots and hoping to continue to develop.
T-Bone on the Illinois side of things got some news today. It sounds like Peja Stojakovic's kid is going to be hanging out for another year with the Illini. You saw something earlier today on the returning production that the Illini have as a Final Four contender. What does it all mean?
Yeah, well, it means they're back in title contention, and they are still big game hunting. I doubt they sign Blackwell now from Wisconsin, who's a guard that they're looking to target in the portal. But they returned 5 guys from last year's rotation. The ones they lose, Hummerkaus, Boswell, and Wagler, they're hoping they've replaced 2 of those 3. They brought in Vox from Providence. They hope that he's going to replace the scoring production of Wagler. And then I think they're hoping that Coleman, as a true freshman, a top-end recruit, comes in and he can be what Wagler was off the bench this year and provide like 10 points like Boswell did. So they're back into Final Four contention once again, and they're probably one piece away from potentially being a championship caliber roster, and we'll see if Brad Underwood's able to lure one of those in.
A nerdy numbers guy that I really like is Evan Mayakawa. He's on Twitter at Evan Maya, M-I-Y-A. And he tweeted out the other day that if Stojakovic were to return, Brad Underwood would very likely have a top 5 returning roster in college basketball. Said they are a strong title contender for the upcoming season. That bragging rights game is going to be a hell of a lot of fun this year, much more so than it has been in the last few years. On the Cardinals side of things, they're back in action this weekend against the Houston Astros. They're on the road, and the Astros are beat up, man. Their pitching staff, they have like 10 guys currently on the injured list, 7 of which are starters for the team. So they're starting some guy tonight that, frankly, you don't want to be starting.
It was on a minor league deal.
Lambert is his name. For context, this is a guy that started a bunch of games for the Rockies over the last few seasons. Wasn't good enough for them to be a consistent starter in their rotation. He's starting for the Astros tonight. Should be a good weekend for your offense. And on the pitching side of things, I do find this one really interesting. They've got a bunch of righties that are in this lineup. Kyle Leahy has been great against righties so far this year. His struggles have come primarily against lefties. So it should be a better test for him to find out, all right, what does this look like against a normal lineup? Not, for example, what the Cleveland Guardians are able to throw out there with all of the left-handed hitters that can produce from their lineup. So we'll have plenty more on that. Breaking everything down from this weekend on Monday at 11 a.m. If you guys missed any of our show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page. The 101 ESPN app is one place you can go to get it, and that is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. You can also check out the full videos from this week over on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. That's where you can also find the latest edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast. You can find the latest edition of the Redbird Report over there as well. So all of our content there, and Alex is going to be hanging out tomorrow out at the Blues exit interviews. Alex, what's the biggest thing you want to learn tomorrow at the exit interviews?
The direction of their team. Are they going into hey, look, we think this is the right recipe, we have to make some tweaks to it? Or do they look at this saying, no, we're still a little bit off, and we're probably going to revisit a lot of those conversations from the trade deadline? I will be fascinated to see the aggressiveness of the Blues between now and July 1st. And I think we'll at least learn a little bit about that from Doug Armstrong tomorrow.
Should be a lot of fun. He'll have all of that on his social media accounts and on the 101 ESPN social media accounts as well. And we'll have some YouTube shorts at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. For Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. Bradford Bruns did a fantastic job for us back in the studio today. This is our final time for the 2026 Blues season, coming to the E&B Granite Studios out at the Centene Community Ice Center. You guys have a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much for listening today. We'll talk to you on Monday at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane's next here on 101 ESPN.
The Spread Zone, where sports betting meets reckless optimism, questionable logic, and the occasional stroke of genius. With hosts Anthony Stalter, Tim McKernan, and Scott Rizzuto. Check out the latest from the Spread Zone at 101ESPN.com or the 101 mobile app. The Spread Zone is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more.